Are you for the meeting?
Yeah.
You can have a seat down at this end. There's agendas down there as well. That Laura can-
Yeah, it's.
You want?
I got this. This is a very late addition to the packet. I apologize.
Yeah, that's all right.
You sure don't like clear. It's just like, I sit and it's just, I don't know if it's, they're all awful. I'm like, all of them.
Yeah.
They're just
I'm like wondering if does this mean, I know I need to lose weight, but I mean,
No.
No, it's a random act of
they're all, okay.
despicable inequity, that's what it is.
So, one, guys, thank you so much, for having me here. I don't know if, Franklin Park schools are out. I know Mount Lebanon's got a day and a half left, so, it's hard to believe that I have a fourth grader. When I started coming here, my oldest daughter wasn't even in kindergarten yet, so, it's hard to believe. So kind of for the halftime-ish report, it's been an interesting, it's interesting the way that we start the market, because I think that coming into this year, one of the things that we were really worried about was, okay, well, what happens if the Magnificent Seven, these top 7 technology stocks start to stumble? And 4 of the 7 have, in pretty material ways. Tesla is down over 30%. You have Facebook. For the life of me, I can't figure out what Mr. Zuckerberg's doing. It seems like every 3 or 4 years, he gets bored with his stock price being high and he decides to talk about things that don't generate any revenue for Facebook. They were down something on the order of 20%. Apple also down kind of 12 to 15%. And weakness in those big 7 stocks was something we were worried about, except what has happened is that one stock in particular, NVIDIA, who makes semiconductor chips, has gone parabolic. Today, it took over Apple as the second largest stock on the planet, added $270 billion of market cap today. And the expectation is that it'll likely pass Microsoft as the largest company in the world by market cap. And so far, that has been what's really been moving the market. You've had one stock. Microsoft's been good and Google's been okay, but Microsoft and NVIDIA have really been moving this market. And so I think the larger question, which is why I brought this handout, and we're going to get to it about what keeps me up at night. But I think that there was weakness, except NVIDIA's strength has masked that weakness. And there's a chart in here on page, I'm going to flip to, will be page 4 of the deck, where it says where we stand today and the Easter Bunny remains. And I think if you look at the second line that says the S&P 500 equal weight ETF, and that's if every company started the year an equal proportion, and then let the chips fall where they may, you can see that we're at less than 5%. The S&P 500 is at almost 12%. And I think that just goes to show you the magnitude of, it used to be 7 stocks, and now it's, I would say 2.5. And for us, that is something that is concerning, because how at a certain point, this is from a comment, an opinion columnist at Bloomberg. He said, it's right, we were right to be excited about the internet. What we were wrong is our expectation that there wasn't going to be an air pocket. And I think for us, when we think about the concerns that we have, it's that what happens if there's an AI air pocket? Because if you look at the performance of the equal weight S&P 500, which is like how on average, how well are the other 498 companies doing? You're seeing returns that are much more suggestive of an economy that's good, not great, maybe okay to fair, and facing headwinds from inflation, from interest rates. And I think for us, at what point in time does that catch up? Does that catch up to NVIDIA? So I think the biggest, it's been great to start the year, even with a fairly large withdrawal that we had in the general employees, which kind of came at the worst possible time in markets. It literally was I think the market kind of bottomed as we were raising money to pay out a $455,000 lump sum distribution. And again, that's the reason why we run that portfolio to be a little bit more conservative, is that, you know, you can have several retirements, and that took a significant chunk. It was almost 10% of the assets out of the employees. The pension plan, we were able to fund that from stocks and bonds, and able to push that out. It just so happened that it sort of coincided with a market that was declining in April. We've since recovered with the performance today. You know, I think both plans are well above 5% to start the year, and that's with not getting a whole lot of performance out of our fixed income, which interest rates have stayed stubbornly high. I don't think I need to tell anybody at this table, you know, where interest rates have been. They've stayed stubbornly high, which has been, I think in the short term has been a headwind for our fixed income portfolio, but I think over the long term, it just sets us up to continue to earn, you know, greater than 5% in our bonds. And I think that's a really good way to make to make the number that we need to make sure that these things continue to be perpetuities. Because I do think, and what I put together and the handout, it's kind of, if we were to, the last 10 years, performance has certainly been pushed by the S&P 500. And for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been by 7 stocks. But if you look over time, right, if we were to experience the last 10 years of results moving forward, what would it have to go? And I think this chart from a numbers perspective, I think lays it out. If you had 11% real earnings growth, which is earnings above inflation. So if you say inflation right now has a 3 handle on it, so 14% earnings growth, the price to earnings ratio would have to go from where we are now, cyclically adjusted at 34 times, which is you're paying $34 for every $1 of earnings on a smoothed out basis, would have to go to 44. And if you just say, okay, well, I don't know that the S&P 500 can grow earnings. Certainly not all companies can grow it at 11%. If you dial that back to 6%, the price to earnings ratio has to go to 60. The highest it's ever been is 44. And for us, that's the thing when we think about kind of diversification and how we allocate, how we're allocating the pension plan. We're staying disciplined. We're not trying to just chase the S&P 500 because the numbers suggest that performance is going to be a lot harder to come by over the next 10 years. In part because you're having this like narrow leadership. Whereas when you look outside of the US, the Bank of Canada cut interest rates today. The European Central Bank is going to cut interest rates in the next week or two, followed by the Bank of England. For the first time since 2008, 2009, global central banks outside of the United States will be ahead of us from a monetary policy perspective. And what we do know about rates is that as you cut rates, that tends to be more accommodative for equities. And you saw that today with a really strong performance in not only international markets, but also in emerging markets.
How much they cut? How much?
And they cut by 25, a quarter of a percent. Quarter of a percent. And I think what you're likely to see is that when you read why they, Ms. Lagarde, who's you made that call as the head of the ECB, when you read into why they did it, they wanted to be able to do successive interest rate cuts. And so if they
where were they before the cut?
Their policy rate, I believe, was around 3%. Was their policy rate? They've kept rates a lot lower than we have.
Okay.
They kept rates at 0. And part of the reason that the US has done much better, both economically and from a market performance perspective, is that you know, we've had a more dynamic economy and we were much more accommodative. And so that's but I do think when we look out, it's been good. We've certainly, the performance we've gotten out of our large cap stocks is something that we're excited about. But as you look at the numbers and what it's going to look like for diversified portfolios, as you get narrower and narrower, you get either law of big numbers, law of large numbers, and or kind of expectations where, you know, great isn't great enough. And I think that's where we're getting, where they're picking up. You know, they finally got to Apple earnings expectations. They finally got Tesla. They got Mr. Musk, at least for now. And I think as you go forward, when are they gonna get NVIDIA? And that's where I think having exposure to things that are still relatively cheap, and I point out in the executive summary that small cap stocks are still trading 20% below, their all-time highs in October of 2021. There are still places to put money that represent reasonably good value. And I think it represents a margin of safety. So those are kind of the prepared remarks. Sorry about putting this addition late, but that's the concern. The portfolios are in really good shape. Even I was really worried when we sold in April about if we were going to be able to recover that. That's the largest distribution that we've made since Schneider Downs has been managing the portfolio since 2008. The single largest redemption that we've had to make, and it was I think it was a good test for us in terms of being able to meet it and really still see the portfolio perform reasonably well. So open it up to questions.
Okay, so Jason, with Canada needs to be cutting their rates, obviously their currencies will weaken. So that would make US dollar stronger, and with S&P 500, I mean, a lot of those companies has a shift occurred where the majority, not the shift had already occurred where the majority of their earnings foreign based. So would this hurt or help?
So it's a really good question. I think I think 40% of the revenue of the S&P is generated outside of the United States. So that you do have reasonably good diversification in that. Okay. But what I would say is that the amplification effect of them going first, and there are charts in here, and we've shown them about, okay, they're paying, international stocks outside the US pay, almost 2.5 times the dividend yield. They're trading at, they're trading 2 standard deviations cheap, which is just a mathematical way of saying, you see them trading at this level relative to the S&P less than 2.5% of the time because of the way that the tails work in a standard deviation calculation. So the cuts are more like, it's more from an accommodative perspective. And I think where we have the portfolio, we tend to be more overweight developed. And we're kind of the emerging markets. You kind of saw that with what happened out of India, where exit polls overnight and on Sunday said Modi won this like giant victory. Then it was like Monday, they peeled back, they were off 6% because it's like, wait, maybe he didn't win as much. And now he's got this coalition government. On the international developed side, there's going to be more of an amplification effect where the stronger dollar tends to hurt emerging markets a little bit more than developed countries. But I do think, and I think that you also have to take into account the reshoring. So we have this very diverse, like globalization brought on, as you rightly point out, a lot of revenue stream coming from U.S. companies dipping into the international space. Now with, I think a lot of the globe becoming, I don't want to say protectionist, but like adjacent to protectionism. The amount of revenue that's going to be generated by U.S. companies overseas, I think has probably hit its peak and is likely to decline moving forward just because of the policies. And I think that's one of the ways where politically, and I pointed out here, like really the only thing that matters in 2024 is the Fed. The Fed is, there's the horse race in politics, and it's great. And if anybody knows who's going to win, we can all go to Vegas and make some money, and that would be wonderful. But the chairman really is in control when he cuts, why he cuts. But we certainly think that where the overlapping in political philosophy is that they want to bring more jobs here, bring more manufacturing back here, which stands to reason that that's going to be met by an equal force on the other side. So I do think that we're going to see less revenue generated by the S&P, and that's before you factor in things like how much longer is the U.S. government going to let NVIDIA sell its chips into China? We haven't kind of reached there, but that's another area of overlap between Mr. Trump's team and Mr. Biden's team. It is that they both have a very aggressive view on China from the trade perspective.
So is it your firm's view? Let's take a video, for example, because I mean that's the hot stuff today.
Yeah.
I mean the run up today was like another 5%. I mean, their backlog is 3 billion, right? So, I mean, that excludes China. I mean, if China were, if they were allowed to export to China, I think the backlog would be
Sure.
even higher. So that's some, I mean, that's quite a long.
It's a huge backlog, but I think that what the counterpoint to that is Intel just came out today with a chip that's going to rival it. You saw news yesterday that Elon Musk moved his Tesla, the chips that he had originally targeted to Tesla, and moved it to Twitter, to X, into XAI. You're starting to see some of those business decisions being made. And as AMD and Intel are developing these chips to compete, Qualcomm are developing these chips to compete with NVIDIA, and quite frankly, a lot of the large hyperscalers, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, they're looking to diversify who they're buying from. There's certainly, when you look at economics in general, like he's gotten off to a head start, but competition's going to eat into that. And it's like, how do you price that growth? I think that's where you're going. And for us, we're passive in the US space. We own the S&P 500, and then we have tilted. We've got a market cap weighted growth ETF. So we own a little bit more of those powerful growth companies, which has served the allocation well. We do have a little bit of an allocation to value because we want to have some ballast against a retrenchment or that air pocket. But you're right to point out the backlog, but there are people coming for that backlog. But it's certainly, I mean, if you look at the chart, I mean, if we could only know, like in 2016, we could have got that stock for like $20. And now it's like 1,200 before it split. So certainly very powerful.
Yeah, and just one last question. Some questions?
Federal Reserve
Yeah,
next
go ahead.
week, right?
Federal Reserve is June. It's huge. It's a huge week. I think we got a job number today that was suggestive of a slowing economy. It's 150,000 jobs. I wish they all got paid $150,000. That'd be wonderful. But we got 150,000 jobs. That is a number that was significantly less than the 200,000 that we're clipping away at, which is suggestive of an economy that's slowing. Prominent Mohammed El-Arian, who used to run PIMCO and is a very prominent, economic thinker, is really lobbying the Federal Reserve to cut in July. But we don't expect them to cut in June. But if they don't cut, for us, if they don't cut in July, just as a matter of them keeping their independence, it's hard to see them cutting before the election. You cut in September and equities rip, which is what they probably would do, led by kind of small caps and mid caps. It looks like you're trying, it would give the appearance that you're trying to tilt it. I have no reason to think that Mr. Powell would try to do that, Chairman Powell and his, and then the rest of the voting members, but it looks really political if you cut in September. And historically, during election years, they tend to not, if they don't do it in the summer, they tend to not do it before the election. Our base case scenario and our expectation is they're going to cut in November after the election. Similar to what caused equities to rally last year was them pausing in November and then saying they saw 3 cuts in December, which is again one of the reasons that it's been really hard for people, was that the Fed said one thing and did another, similar to what they did in 2022, where they said, well, we're going to raise interest rates one time, 25 basis points. So our base case is November after the election, but certainly June sets up a series of really important meetings for them.
And just last question. I mean, what matters more, Fed statement or consumer sentiment? I mean, if the consumer is not feeling, I mean, if the market's well, the consumer feels good, right? So the consumer's well, that's bad.
I think consumer sentiment's really interesting because people see the market going up and they're spending the money, but they don't. When you take a larger look, they don't feel like that. Consumer sentiment surveys tend to give you mixed messages depending on your demographic. And certainly go to an airport. Unfortunately, I was in too many of them in March, April, and May. And it's hard to find a recession. But I think as that jobs number would indicate, and when you see some of the other mechanisms, consumer sentiment is incredibly important. I think it's I think what you're seeing is it's very bifurcated though, and just how you're having a winnowing of those 7 stocks are really driving the market. Now it's 3.5. From the consumer's perspective, let's just say you had, at the start of the recovery in COVID, right? Almost, a large portion of the population didn't lose their jobs because of PPP and then got a lot of stimulus. So let's just say you had 70% was driving spending. And then it kind of went down to 50. And when you look at the surveys, how much of this is really being driven, middle-class Americans, like 2 and 3 middle-class Americans think that, are having serious questions about whether they're making enough to provide for their families. I think there's a smaller and smaller portion of consumers that are pushing the consumption forward. And just like the stock market, that's something that's concerning, which you needed to broaden out. I think interest rates are certainly a part of that, but also getting inflation, when we calculate inflation in this country, we tend to do it ex food and energy, because those tend to be very volatile. But if you just take a step back, and this is not a political statement, but if you take a step back, food and energy touch everybody. Doesn't matter if you're the wealthiest among us or you're the least fortunate among us, that touches all of you. And those have been much more sticky. So from a more food than energy, this mid-70s on oil is actually not bad, historically speaking, but the food stuff has been quite sticky. So you're absolutely right about consumer sentiment. You get mixed reviews in part because it depends on the survey response. But spending is still suggestive of a growing economy. You're absolutely right to point that out.
Any questions, folks? Okay, Jason, thank you so much.
And just before I leave, I wanted to let you guys know, we will be the sponsor, again, the lead sponsor for the golf outing. That got approved. Like I told Reed, the check will be coming in the next, 7 to 10 days.
Thank you so much.
I just double checked too, because I wasn't sure if I still sent it to Don or not.
I know Jim was sweating.
It's definitely coming. But you sent the 2 flyers came first, and I didn't get the pamphlet until last week. So I kind of had it circled. I was like, one more week, I was gonna be emailing Kathy. So I'm really excited to
Thank you.
to come back and do that again. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Whatever by 7 minutes, 8 minutes. We got our first person?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, cool.
Did you know this worksheet?
Hmm?
Did you know this?
You.
What do you decide? What do you say?
What's his name? We have all those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
No, I'm gonna make sure.
Oh,
I'll give the next week. What do you got? You can take that. This one's near a keep his seat.
yeah, makes sense.
This is me with Dell. Then, am I saying that right?
Della, yeah.
Okay.
Meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome, to council. To the borough. Thank you. So it's Mila. Caroline?
Della, yeah.
Caroline, okay, all right, cool. I'm Mila Powell. I'm council member from Ward 1, also president of council. Why don't we just go around the room to introduce ourselves?
Reed Jagger, borough manager. Luke Muslinski, Ward 2. Dennis O'Keefe, mayor.
Laura Check, I Ward 2.
Ward Brian Malcolm, Ward 3.
Secretary.
And hanging out.
Yeah.
And which is very good. And we have 2 council members that are out. Dr. Jay Leeds, Ward 1, me as well, and then Tom Schwartzmeyer, Ward 3. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm going to be a senior in high school. I am very involved in all different types of music programs, consisting of marching band, indoor percussion. I've been a dancer for now going on 14 years. I take piano lessons. I used to do jazz band. And that's basically about it. Just music.
Dancing.
Hmm?
What kind of dancing?
All types of genres. I only do jazz, tap, and ballet now, but I used to do like hip hop, lyrical, contemporary.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you like the best?
Probably ballet,
ballet?
yeah.
Good for you. How long you studied? Ballet,
Yeah.
how long?
This is gonna be my 14th year, but like actually known how to do it probably like 9 or 10, yeah. Not when I was little.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big challenge.
It is, it's hard, but I enjoy it.
That's a big challenge. And it's dedication too.
Mhm,
Takes a lot of, but it also forms your character too, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Beautiful dance.
It is.
Excellent.
What's your favorite subject in school right now?
This is really out of the ordinary for me, but this year was probably math.
Was it the teacher then?
Yeah.
What teacher did you want?
Mr. Hannon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was by far the best teacher I've ever had for math. And he made me like really enjoy it. Like I looked forward to that class and I knew what I was doing, which is probably why I enjoyed it so much.
And you're headed into your senior year, have you given some thought to what you want to major in or career path or anything?
Yeah, my goal is to be a counselor or therapist. I wanted to do that for probably like 2 years now. I want to major in psych or communication, something around that. So I like helping people.
So clinical psychology then? I'm
Yeah.
assuming?
Can you tell us a little bit about the student ambassador program?
So in middle school, the 8th grade year, it was on, I believe, the last day of school, they handed out all these different types of awards, like scholar athlete, just, I mean, 8th grade, I don't really remember all of them, but the student ambassador was given to a female and a male, and I was the female of my 8th grade class in Ingomar Middle who received it. It was given by the, like, I guess the head gym teacher, and she just would like watch her like students. I never had her, but I participated in morning announcements, which is what she was in charge of. And so I knew her for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I guess she just watched like her students and picked someone that she felt was like the best leader in her eyes.
And what do you think of student council? Are you still on student council?
I am, yes.
How many years have you been on student council?
So I didn't do it my freshman year.
Mhm.
I did it all through middle school, but I picked it back up this year. In middle school, I was public relations director for 2 years, and this year and my freshman year, I've just been a member of the council, not an officer.
How does public relations work? How does the public relations director work in student council? What's their responsibility?
We were kind of, it was like different 8th grade year because of COVID, and so it was kind of like everyone was like helping each other with everything. And so like I would sometimes send out an email, but then the secretary would also sometimes send out an email, and I would like make flyers or like help the president or the vice president create like fun activities that we could do at like they did my 8th grade year like a dance after like on a Friday one day, just to like test out and see if like that would work for middle school. And I remember like making flyers and putting them up around the school for that.
How'd the middle school dance go in the pandemic? What happened?
I think it was odd, and especially for middle school, because I don't think they ever did that before. So it's definitely different, but I do remember there was like this circle and we just like threw candy in the middle. I don't know why, but I remember like, I vividly remember that we stood in a circle and threw candy in the middle, so.
Middle school. You would have been there for Dr. Duramo, right? That would have been.
I was there for him.
Yeah. Then you would have been there for his first year then, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That may have had something to do with the circle of candy throwing.
Yeah,
He was a forward thinker. Yeah, he
For
was
sure.
very,
he liked out of the ordinary.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but he walked around and when they opened it up, he had a barbecue or something. He was grilling all over the different classrooms. Yeah,
Sounds about right.
yeah. So what makes you interested in being a junior council person in your senior year? Because I'm sure you're gonna be inundated with a bunch of different classwork. You can't
Yeah.
even see it coming. So what makes you interested in this?
I've always kind of been interested in government and kind of what goes on behind it, and especially the government within where I am, because I'm a resident of Franklin Park, and being a younger student, and I feel like I would be able to like connect with what was going on in here to what was going on with like people my age, like outside of what you guys do.
Do you know our current junior council, person, Julia O'Keefe?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Did you talk to her on getting kind of ideas about? what
I-
to do?
I honestly don't think I've talked to her since middle school. We had 6th and 8th grade. I think we were in class together. But I don't see her at Nash at all because that school is massive. I don't even see my best friend, so.
It's huge.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
We, council is the first and third Wednesday of every month. So that's something that should be your schedule.
Yeah, I don't, this year we moved my dance to Wednesdays, but it's usually on Tuesdays. So next year it wouldn't impact anything because all my activities fall on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. So
And fess up, how many hours do we spend? Come on, fess up, let them know.
Probably 2 hours of meeting, generally speaking. We do get packets every Friday before sessions. Most computer council people get most of that packet.
They
right?
do, they get a redacted packet, so confidential information is not included, but you get everything. else.
Yeah, probably, I'd say probably about an hour, maybe a little bit more sometimes.
So each of the council people, junior council persons in the last, since I've been on, have done kind of a project. Do you have something in mind? It's something that like benefits community. For example, one person did a community garden. The current one has done, these care packages, and we've seen others. So do you have any thoughts?
I think I'm involved with like band, and then my boss at Urban Trail Coffee. I think if I talk to her, we could somehow do, I guess, a miniature festival of like, there's coffee, there's like music playing, because I'm a percussionist and I know how much you can get involved with like younger kids and even older adults just by like letting them like bang on your drum. It's like actually crazy how much like the adults get into it. And I think that we could find some way to bring like the community together and like just have like fun, like little activities like there for just like an hour or two or something. You
I think that's a great idea. Any community events that bring people together, I think are a great idea. And it sounds like you already have some ideas and some resources that you could bring together for some of those events. That'd be great.
Yeah, just one last question. What are your thoughts on bringing awareness to your community about borough council? Or the borough in general? Because we have a lot of newcomers to Franklin Park. I was actually on the staff the other day. Our population has grown to like 5,000 in the last 20 years or something, so it's a 50% gain. So people may not be aware of that we have a borough, we have a board. I know a lot of people have had no idea that we have a mayor. So just part of it's like an education. What were your thoughts?
I mean, I do feel like I kind of know what you mean. People just pass by the building and don't really think anything of it. So definitely like talking more to not only my peers, but like I'm a babysitter, talking to like just having conversation, like small talk with like the adults before they leave or when they get home about, hey, there's a meeting, maybe you want to like tune in a little bit, like see what's going on in your community. Just like small things like that, I think, and then the word will eventually spread to see like a whole bigger group of people getting more involved and in touch with what's happening.
Outside of all the things you just talked about and all the great accomplishments that you had, what's your hobbies? What's your things you have fun with?
I like to read on the beach specifically. I don't really get in my bed and read, but I like reading by the beach. I dance, obviously. I play the piano, so I take lessons on Mondays, and I'll just like, get on the piano at home for fun. Hopefully we get that tune soon. It sounds a little bit wonky right now, but, I mean, I have percussion on Tuesdays in the summer right now from 6 to 9. So I'm constantly doing things with music. Music is basically my life.
For you.
I'm not athletic at all. So that's where all my hobbies circle around.
Good for you.
Final questions for us?
You have anything for us?
No question.
I don't think so.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate it.
having me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Me too.
This is Praneeth Othi. Sit right here.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome to council.
Welcome.
Hey, what, actually, sorry, why don't we go around, introduce ourselves? So I'm Hugh Howard, I'm Council Ward 1, and President.
Reach Edner, our manager.
Ms. Linsky, Ward 2.
I'm Dennis O'Keefe, mayor.
Laura Checa, I'm also Ward 2.
Ward 3, Brian Malcolm.
Kathy Cromer, secretary.
Andy IT.
Yeah, and we have two council members who are missing, Jamie Lee, Ward 1, and Tom Schwarzmeyer, Ward 3. So welcome, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to remember you guys' names. That
Don't
was
have
fun.
to, you don't have to.
Don't worry about it.
Okay,
Do your thing.
Well, my name's Praneeth Othi. You guys pronounced it perfectly, right? There's a guy who called me pronounce it right. So that barely happens. I go to North Allegheny. I'm a junior. In my free time, I like to do speech and debate. I also have this like fellowship thing going with the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. In my free time, what I actually enjoy doing now, what I do in my free time, I do piano, and this is gonna sound like pretty nerdy, but I also like do physics problems.
You like what?
I do physics problems.
Music club?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's interesting. But yeah, I play the piano, and that's a bit about me.
How accomplished are you?
So in physics,
Well, on the piano.
well, I wish you asked about physics because I'm much better at that.
You can go that way too. Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about the piano for a bit. I've been playing for 11 years.
Wow.
I'm okay at it. I'm not great, I'll admit. I play sometimes at our local church, Ingomar Church, down the road. Play some recitals every once in a while. It's just kind of like something I do in my free time. Also trying to pick up the guitar, but that's like a lost cause.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Absolutely. Physics, I'm actually much better at physics. This is also gonna sound pretty. I've won like some national awards. And that's, I'm not gonna like brag about myself.
For problem solving?
Yeah, really, yeah, it's all the biggest fun.
That's great. That's awesome. Good for you.
are you doing a major in physics or?
I actually I'm actually like deciding. I used to want to become like a professor in physics because I think it's like really interesting. But recently I've been talking to like a couple friends about like law and things like the humanities, and that also seems really interesting. So now I'm kind of at a crossroads. So I guess I gotta decide in the next couple months.
Almost, you could do your physics and then go on to law school, and then you can be a patent lawyer and do
I was
both,
just thinking that.
right?
Yeah.
that'd
the
be-
That's
two
what you
would
just
make-
described, because it's a perfect, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
you definitely consider that.
That'd be-
And there's many more people that need patent lawyers than there are patent lawyers in the US, so.
Yeah.
So you had a paid fellowship.
Yeah, that was at the World Affairs Council.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that's kind of like an opportunity. So I had to apply for that, I believe, early last year. I forget the exact one. But that's kind of like an opportunity where they kind of throw leadership opportunities at you, and it's kind of like take it or leave it. So there I did a couple of things. Earlier on this year, actually, I made a leadership course. And that was kind of like free for the community. On this website called Canopy Lab, which actually I think went down a month ago. So that's fun. Anyways, I made that for the community. That was earlier on in the year. Other than that, with the fellowship specifically, I spoke at conventions, I introduced speakers. I met some really cool people actually at some networking events, and it's a fun time.
How long did that go on?
It actually ends this month, the end of
Okay,
this month.
so you're in process now with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I see that. Yeah, thank you.
It started in like September.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say they were class right now, or area study would be physics, or is there something else that makes you happier than physics?
Something that makes me happy.
In school, I mean, if
Oh, in
that's
school.
not, yeah, maybe that's it. That's an
Narrow it
oxymoron,
down a
but
little.
yeah,
I mean, everyone's favorite subject is lunch.
there you go,
I guess talking to people's fun.
there you
But yeah, physics is fun. It's like,
Reed, it looks like you're really busy. Well, council meetings are the first and third Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
Start generally at 7 o'clock, a couple of hours each night. Is that something you can accommodate?
like, that's completely fine. My schedule's like kind of open, especially like once we get into the year. Cause like all my like opportunities like kind of end this summer. Cause I'm kind of like focusing on like college applications and all that stuff. I guess like one of the biggest commitments I have during the school year is speech and debate. So that's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But that ends at like 5-ish. So I should be fine.
You enjoy that?
I love speech and debate, yeah. That actually might be one of the things I love more than physics. I went to tournaments all year.
Did you?
Yeah, I actually went to Harvard.
We're in the same place.
Nice.
If I'm not mistaken, forum.
Yeah, public forum. I won 3, lost 2 then, so I didn't break. Or no, I won 3, lost 3, so I didn't break because only 4, you have to win 4 of these 2 to break.
Good for you.
I lost the last round, which I'm still disappointed about, but it's fine. Take the cricket with this race.
So with all this going on, what made you interested in being a junior councilman in your senior year? Because I'm guessing you're loading up on more APs and more honors classes than the normal students. So why? Just say, just why?
Good question. It might be kind of different for me, but I'm not like actually gonna put this on the college applications. So I think like I'm kind of, okay, I don't want to say different because that just sounds like pretentious. But I'm not gonna put this on my college application, so I'm not doing it for my college applications. I'm kind of just doing it to actually like benefit my community. Like, I've lived here like all my life, and there's also like a couple of things I want to improve on. And like the community's already like helped me so much, so I kind of want to give back. But yeah, I'm not trying to do it for any like personal benefit.
You set them up and I'll knock them down. What do you want to improve on and how?
Okay, so this is kind of like personal to me, but a lot, like when I like walk through my neighborhood, for example, I mean, it's pretty clean, but I see like a lot of litter like everywhere. And Waste Management's like a great company. I think they do like a lot of great stuff. Their pickup management's pretty good, but they also have like a lot of mistakes. And I think we could like plan like, I mean, here's like an off the top of my head idea, like cleanup meetings or like volunteering kind of like that way to like get the community involved. Like pollution's one thing that I see a lot of, especially like hurts because there's like a lot of greenery here that's being covered. There's other problems, but I can't remember them off the top of my head.
That's
That's kind of one of them.
Sometimes it's hard when you're on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Cindy, what are they, okay, so there must be something that you succeeded at with problem solving.
Well, actually, like a couple months ago, I went to a conference for the Woodford Council District, the fellowship thing, and I saw a problem on cigarette filters. So I also wrote my debate case on this at Harvard, which is interesting. But cigarette filters are just like really bad. Like they don't actually help your health. They're just kind of like a marketing scheme. Like what these cigarette companies do is that they put, so the cigarette filter is like the butt of the cigarettes, like the yellow part. They put on that filter to the end of your cigarette so that when people see the cigarette, they think it's like healthier. But actually it's made out of like toxic plastics that you inhale. So it actually like increases cancer rates, which is like completely counterintuitive. But after that, I kind of like sent emails to a bunch of cigarette companies. And I actually I only heard a response from one of them, which isn't that much of a success, but it's a success for me. And they just said that they would like talk about it at their board meeting, which is kind of like non-conclusive. And I actually haven't heard back from them, but like even like getting an email back and like continuing to pursue it is like a success to me.
So writing to your congressman, senators, state reps,
Yeah, that'd be
making them, because if you shine a light on the issue, now all of a sudden, now you've got public hearings and you've got something, and you got the ball rolling, so.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because you tried to grab the bull by the horns, that's not,
Yeah, talk to the company, so that'd be great,
yeah,
especially since it's their profit.
but it's a great idea, because how long have cigarettes been around? Nobody's suggested that.
What made you research that?
It was actually the debate topic at Harvard. It was
Oh, what?
the topic was banning single-use plastics. And cigarette filters make up a ton of single-use plastic. I forget the statistic off the top of my head. I think it's like 13% or something. It's just a ton. And they're also like even more toxic because they're made out of toxic cellulose acetate. So it's just like bad. And that like caused me to research a bit more.
So each of the council persons, the junior council persons, for the last couple of years, was other non, they've had a project with me, right? That's like their culmination project, I guess, or capstone. Like we had one set up a community garden, current one has these care boxes, it's a good project. Do you have any thoughts on one?
The pollution one I mentioned might be nice, like a community like meetup to pick up trash. Um, that would be one of them. I guess other ideas or other like things I've seen in the community. Things like bike lanes are really annoying. Like I've been talking to my dad, he bikes a lot. And he like always bikes around this one loop in North Park, like constantly. And I always ask him if it gets boring. And he says, yeah, it gets boring. But you can't really bike on roads because it's like dangerous, right? The cars sometimes just like go around bikers. And I'm a driver and like I try and give as much space as possible, but sometimes it's hard. And so maybe like this might be a bit ambitious, in fact, pretty ambitious, but like increasing the number of like bike lanes or awareness of the problem. Because like even like driving around the neighborhood or driving around the community, there's only like I've only seen one bike sign, and that's like right outside my neighborhood that says bikes and cars share the road. But I think there should be like more signs because that's like a pretty big problem that I see. I don't know, it's kind of just like an idea off the top of that.
Sure. Where is your name?
Settlers Walk. So
Okay.
take it right.
Sure.
Any questions? You have any questions for us anymore?
I do.
They were very impressive. You've done a lot of good things.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, meeting you.
Thanks.
Joey?
You got Mark Davis.
Always.
This is Joey Strand.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, how are you?
Thank you.
Hi, welcome. I'm Uday Pallet. I'm council member Ward 1, president.
Pre-Jenner, Borough Manager.
Luke Mislinski from Ward 2.
I'm Dennis O'Keefe, Mayor.
I'm Laura Chuck, I Ward 2.
Brian Malcolm, Ward 3.
I think Cromwell, secretary.
And we've got two council persons, councilman missing, Tom Schwartzmeyer, Ward 3, and Jamie Lee for Ward 1. So welcome to council. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
I am Joe Strano. I'm a rising senior at North Catholic. I'm on the football team, track and field. I played hockey earlier in my years there, but I ended. I love to be outside. Football takes up a lot of my time. I love the golf, like my free time, be outside in the wilderness, fish, all things like that.
Outdoorsman.
Yeah.
You ever golf at Clover Hill?
I'm a member there. That's my favorite place to be.
That's a nice course.
Cool. So what's your, I'm seeing your questions, favorite subject?
My favorite subject's probably math. I really liked calculus this year. I had pre-calculus and trigonometry this year.
Tell us about your experience as a data migration specialist. What do you do for that?
Yeah, I just started that job with a nonprofit, Achieve Family Trust. It's really just they needed help moving files from one system, which they're losing in August, to a new system. And so I'm just doing that. It's all online. I'm kind of just moving files. It's kind of a little simple, but yeah, it's important for them, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity for the summer job,
Yep.
especially with football. I need a little flexibility.
Great summer job.
Yeah, for sure.
You do it.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little tedious.
Okay.
But I try to enjoy my time.
Just out of curiosity, what technology you using for that?
They have a laptop that they gave me and then a monitor I hook up with. So I kind of have like a dual system, and I'm just moving. It's all on Windows.
I see you with Coach Dave Gray, and tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I was actually I did his summer camp as a kid
Yeah.
throughout my whole life. I volunteered when I was able to, and then I got a job for a year there with him. Working, I really loved it. It was one of my favorite summer jobs, but sadly, like, as high school progressed in football, we have, like every day, so I couldn't work there anymore. But I really loved it, and it was probably one of the best ways to like meet new people and be out in like the wilderness and
Yeah.
the outside.
Speaking of, council meets every the first and third Wednesday of every month, usually starting at 7 for a few hours. So that's something that would fit into your schedule.
Yeah, it should be definitely.
You like hiking?
I don't do as much, but me and my brother, we like to, when we can. Yeah, it's nice. It's peaceful. It's a good way to clear your mind, just be outside.
You have your favorite place?
Moraine State Park.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Lynbrook and Franklin Park? It's down on the Beaver.
I don't think I have.
It's a nice place for check it out.
So with all your other activities, what makes you think you want to be a junior council person in your senior year?
I've really been focusing like during my college search, I've been thinking about like what do I want to do, and I really found like I kind of want to be in like government and like be able to like work in like my goal is to work in Washington eventually and stuff like that. I also really love business. I think this would be a good like step in the right direction to give me some experience and like be able to have a opportunity to experience everything in government.
What's your position on football?
I play right guard, but I'm learning everything this year. We're a little short staffed in our O-line department, so I gotta learn every position. But I love it.
That's awesome.
What do you love about
Hitting people. That's my favorite. It's kind of,
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Very honest, very honest.
but yeah.
You have under education honors courses. What honors courses have you taken?
I've taken honors history throughout all I've been there, and then all of them are Catholic, and then honors Spanish. I took honors biology, and this year I'm taking AP environmental science.
Where do you live in Franklin Park, Joe?
Sturbridge Drive.
Oh.
So, and I asked questions about others too as well. The past couple of council persons, junior ones, have had like a capstone project or a project to work on for their time here. Do you have any ideas of what you'd like to do, in terms of like a project as a part of your role?
Definitely. I think, as I've been like with Coach Dave Gray, Blueberry Hill Park, I'm right next to it. I'm there a lot, and sadly, it's such a beautiful park. I don't see as many people as I think should be there. And I think there's so much opportunity with that area. There's a lot of space where there could be so many like events, family events, like almost every day. That stuff where they can get more people outside into the parks that are really just beautiful. Not a lot of people I feel take advantage of them.
You'll be happy to know we've added on to it recently. So there's more of the surrounding areas being incorporated into the park.
We got park.
Yeah.
There's walking trails back there too. We've walked.
Yeah, I have. They're nice. They've definitely grown because I've been there for a long time, so it's definitely seen the growth.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone?
What do you do with time management?
Excuse me, what?
Time management.
Time management. So man, I kind of just I work football during the summer. That's football in the morning, then I come home and work.
So you discipline yourself with time.
Yeah.
management. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you have so much going on.
Mhm.
You gotta work it all in.
Yeah,
How you
and my
do it?
schedule fit my schedule. I think playing football for so long has helped me like stay disciplined. All like since you're a little kid, they teach you like you have to stay disciplined. To, like you have to go to like practice every day to be better, to be where you want to be. Like you have to do the things, the little things right.
What time you start your day?
I wake up every day at 6.
What's your first activity? After eating breakfast.
Um, I'll look on my phone, see what happened, but I usually go to bed early, so there's a lot of my friends are up. So I'll see what happens, then I'm up, practice starts at 7 a.m. So I'm there, drive really,
Good
get
for
to
you.
practice field,
Good for you. You're up to good work.
thank you,
Okay, any last questions for us?
I do not.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. That's looking football season also.
Thank you,
Looks like it's like always going on. So,
thank you.
Nice to
Thank
meet you.
Thanks, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Jordan. That's not.
Oh, no, Dennis is in your chair, sorry, so you can see.
Hi.
Hey, Julia.
Reset up.
You're set.
Hearing you.
So I think you know everyone's cheer.
Yeah, I think so.
What are you gonna do for your second act?
Yeah.
For your project, what do you, because you had a whole bunch of time thinking about this, so what do you got going on now?
I'd like to do the Jared Box project again and make it bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were pretty successful on this last one.
Yes, yeah, we got a lot more boxes than I thought we were going to get, so it was a great turnout.
What do you think undermined, it, like, that kept it from like taking off, like to where you wanna like see it go?
I think it was just getting people to know about it.
Mhm. Publicity, right, it's the thing
Yes.
for everything.
Yes, yeah, just kind of getting it out there. I think, doing it once though,
Mhm.
like even my family came and I know they sent it to other people and
Yeah.
people, well, I think when you see it, you're more likely to kind of donate to it. So I think even posting the pictures that we did this year, making it bigger the next year, by word of mouth too.
Yeah.
I learned so much about you on your.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, me too.
Tell us a little bit about the James Wall Humanitarian Scholarship.
Yeah, so that was at the end of my sophomore year. So I had to apply just a general application, some essay questions, and then they asked all of the teachers to recommend people. I ended up being a finalist and I went for an interview. And so the scholarship was really, it was in recognition of the teacher who was just like a good person, selfless person, and a hard worker. So I was chosen for that. And it was an honor, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I never, for instance, I never knew you were a cheerleader.
Oh, yeah,
And
yes.
You're still doing that?
I'm not doing it this year because the varsity is just a lot more time commitment, but I did it through JV, so.
Oh, nice.
So the easy question is, what did you like about being a junior councilman? The more difficult one is, what did you not like about it? What would you change if
Yeah.
you could? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I liked about it, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like coming in, I didn't really know what to expect, but just sitting here, like, I feel like sometimes I don't understand everything, but you learn a lot just at every meeting. Some things I didn't always understand, I'd go home and I'd look them up and then, kind of go from there. It was a really great experience. I learned a lot more about what the community does, and I learned like how hard it is to get things done. There's a lot more steps than you realize. I also loved like when we got to go to that severe weather.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah, the emergency
Oh,
yeah.
regulation.
Yeah, that was really
It was
interesting.
really well done.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and meeting with Chief Leach about the police department and the social media, I learned like how it has to be run in the government way. That was really interesting.
Mm.
And the ride along of the ambulance authority, that was really interesting as well, like getting time medicine. There's just been so many opportunities and I wouldn't take any of them for granted. I've learned so much.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about the hard question? What would you do? What would you change or what did you not enjoy, if anything?
I mean, there's not much.
Mhm.
Honestly, I really enjoyed every moment.
Mhm.
Sometimes the meetings were longer on school nights, I will say, but
Yeah.
that's, something I had expected. I really did enjoy the experience.
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
I know the IT department can sometimes be tough to work with. But hopefully-
And you sat through all these meetings, and one of the things we struggle with is how to get the information out to the public, and you're really connected with social media, we know that from.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas, what we're doing wrong, what we could do better, what we could do that's,
I mean, even talking with Chief Leach, I think like the police social media, he wanted to put more than just like police information, like all of the events, all of the borough events. I think that'd be really helpful. He talked about there was like a triangle, it was like 5 things you have to include in form, like all these different things. And I think hitting all of those points would really be helpful in that social media. I think a police social media, I think would get some followings. I think it's also word of mouth too, and just getting people to start following, telling other people. Yeah,
I mean, you heard that frustration is we would like people to actually know that there's meetings going on, what's
Right.
going on in the meetings. And
Right.
actually feel like this is something they would want to participate in or at least be aware of.
yeah,
Because we're always hearing from folks after the fact, well, I didn't know that was going on and I didn't know this.
right.
So we get the complaint afterwards instead of like participation before. Right?
Yes, yes. I think also the email blasts that go out, I know my parents get those. I think those are very helpful too. A lot of the neighbors talk about those. I think putting things in that is also really helpful, but yeah, it's kind of just getting people to sign up for that too is what's hard.
It is.
At the festival.
100.
At the festival, let's get, a QR code.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah. Could we get like a QR code?
Put Donna in
that
the
they
message
could-
board.
That they could hit with their phone, it takes them to the link for signing up. Yeah, okay, idea. Good.
Yeah, that's good.
What about, have you played around with the Franklin Park website at all? Is there anything that you would like to tell us about that or?
I mean, I've looked at things on there. I think it's nice, like the meeting videos are on there. That's nice and how to join.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the contact information is good. You know, when I had to tell people where the Jerry box was, the address and all of that stuff's on there. So that's very helpful.
What about the peer tutoring?
Yes, so I did that at the intermediate high school. They
Right.
had an opportunity there. So basically, they just sent out like a Google form. Would you be interested in what subject? So I kind of checked them all. I love school, so I like all of the subjects. And I ended up getting paired with someone for world cultures, so like a history class. And we met during study halls, during lunches, just during the day because, you know, he did football, so it was hard with schedules and things. And it was really nice. I made a connection with someone I never really would have talked to. And I think it was good. Yeah.
Is that pretty helpful
Yes. Yes.
to the ones you
Yeah,
mentioned?
he really improved.
Okay.
Great skill building for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Where do you do that in school or away from school or?
Yes, so the peer tutoring was through school, but I also have done just some tutoring in the neighborhood for kids, even in the summer, just reading for some elementary kids and things.
I saw that you said pre-med and chemistry was probably gonna be your focus in college.
Yeah, that's
Be a
what
doctor, is that what you're thinking?
yes, yes.
Any kind of specialty that you're interested in?
I'm interested in immunology and allergy, so yeah. There's a lot of like unknowns in that area. It's really interesting when you start reading. So I want to go into research and that's a great area to be in, research.
Like the orchestra?
Oh, I love the orchestra. That's like my favorite hobby. I had a first period this year and it was a great way to start my day. So many like connections. And we also have the strolling strings to North Allegheny, so we get to go out and play in different communities. We went to a couple of nursing homes and it was really nice.
So you must recall the strolling strings coming through your elementary school when
Yeah.
you were violin concerts.
Yeah,
Advertising, you could be here someday.
I think it worked that stage, but yeah, it's great.
Good.
So Julia, in a short paragraph, since you're currently serving as the junior councilperson, why do you feel you should be re-selected for a second, not term, a second?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've honestly learned so much. I feel like I've taken advantage of a lot of the opportunities given. And I know that there will be more. I know that like, you know, these meetings aren't going to take the same topic every day. There's always something new to learn. I'd love to continue to learn more. I'd love to expand the Jared Box project. I'd love to continue working on the social media project. I think that like, my brother actually graduated this week and I've been working on a slideshow for like all his pictures. And so many of them are in Franklin Park. I just love Franklin Park, you know, grown up here, Blueberry Park, lit like the soccer fields, everything. And yeah, I just love to continue have this opportunity again. It's been amazing. So
Yeah, so thanks for coming out.
yeah, no problem.
I would encourage you, even if you don't come back next year, you can still do the Jared Box here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
She does not need to leave.
And so we're gonna,
Yeah, you don't need to leave. So
Okay.
I think we're discussing in
July,
July.
Okay.
when everybody's back.
Yep.
Only have our two members.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
Hey, Julia.
thanks, Julia.
Oh, you're gonna start.
So you're staying?
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to switch seats.
Yes.
Got Mike
Yeah.
from
Code lover,
right?
Yeah.
We just want to give him a minute.
I'm just gonna do a lot of stuff.
They come back, that'll be great.
Yeah.
noisy.
Cohen's not out there.
She's online, Mike Roberts.
You should do it, someone make
I know.
You did? Oh,
It's just, we're recording and we're not.
You sat through the graduation then, right?
Yes. I was actually volunteering, so I was down there.
So you were involved.
Yeah, I loved it, 'cause I was down there like by the ramp, on stage, I could talk to everyone before they went out.
You're on the same team, you're on live, so it probably was about 20 feet from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they just non-stop read the names?
Yeah, they just read the names and it has the, they met in the middle, right? So they start at the very end, the middle.
So you got it at once.
My kids were M's, right, obviously, so they were like up there, like in the second row. or whatever.
You want for her when she's retiring, right?
It was three hours, it's just in the-
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I got that. It's just like ours.
Do they not?
That's
lock
the way I
the
was
gates
just
when it
too.
starts?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think.
All right,
I
folks,
saw
let's get
anybody
started.
leave.
So we've got Mike Roberts from Cohen Law Group. Do you want to mute him?
Just ask them to unmute.
Okay, Mike, welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Mike.
Please, welcome to council. I'm Peter Pallett. I'm Ward 1, President of Council. So you're here to talk to us about the Verizon franchise renewal process proposal. Do we?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Want to introduce ourselves?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go around, see me here, I'm Max Yunker, I'm with Bax Callen, Borough Solicitor.
Kathy Cromer, Borough Secretary.
Brian Malkin, Councilman Ward 3.
Laura Checkeye, Ward 2.
Dennis O'Keefe, Mayor.
Julie O'Keefe, Junior Councilperson.
Luke Waslinski, Council Ward 2.
Cool. And we have 2 of our council members missing today. So Mike, why don't we talk about the proposal? So get into it.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Great. So just by way of introduction for any of you who aren't familiar with our firm, my name is Mike Roberts. I'm an attorney with the Cohen Law Group. We are a small law firm that specializes exclusively in representing local governments in cable, wireless, broadband, and other telecommunications matters. It's all we've done for over 25 years. We've had the pleasure of representing the borough along with the North Hills COG in a number of matters over the years. I believe the COG is actually one of our very first clients, well before I was an attorney at the firm when Dan Cohen was just starting out. The COG is a long-standing client of the firm. We've worked with you all on a number of matters over the years, whether it be cable franchising for 3 cable operators, actually, Comcast, Verizon, and Consolidated, the last of which is no longer going to be a cable operator, as well as in preparing the borough's wireless facilities management ordinance. So we have a long-standing relationship with the borough, and we're hoping we'll be able to continue that moving forward. But we're here today to talk specifically about Verizon cable franchise renewal. And cable franchising as a concept really is an authorization from the borough for your cable operator to occupy the public rights of way in order to provide cable service to your residents. You have 2 cable operators now, each of which is party to a cable franchise agreement with the borough. Cable franchise agreements are something that are prescribed by federal law. So the Federal Cable Act establishes kind of the ground rules for cable franchising, and a cable operator is required to have that agreement in order to legally provide service. In exchange for the right to provide that service and the use of your public rights of way, the borough is entitled to receive what is known as a franchise fee. That fee is a percentage of the cable operator's gross revenues. Gross revenues is somewhat of a malleable term, which we can talk about, but the definition of that term within the agreement itself kind of sets the standard for the amount of franchise fees that the borough will receive over the term of that franchise agreement. And the term is typically 10 years. With Verizon, they're seeking to shorten that term with their new franchise agreements due to their position within the market. So something to be concerned about as we move into the renewal negotiation with Verizon. When it comes to renewal, federal law also prescribes the method by which a municipality is required to renew a cable franchise agreement, right? So there are two ways that the law allows for renewal. The first is what's known as the formal process, and it's something that is used exceedingly rarely. It is essentially a trial by which the cable operator presents their side, presents their proposed agreement, and then there's a kind of due diligence process whereby the borough would consider that proposal, issue a formal decision, and that decision will be subject to appeal. That is not what the borough is likely going to do here, but it's worth bearing in mind. The process that is used about 99% of the time is what's known as the informal process. And the informal process is kind of your straightforward contract negotiation. It's rarely straightforward, but it involves both sides working from a set document and then working together to reach a mutually agreeable cable franchise renewal agreement that would govern the terms of the provision of cable service, the operation of that cable operator within the borough, and that franchise fee and other payment terms over the term of that agreement. Part of that renewal process that's prescribed by law is the obligation on a municipality to first review the cable operator's past performance and then to ascertain the municipality's future cable-related needs. So what does that mean? Reviewing past performance really is taking a look at how the cable operator complied with the existing cable franchise agreement over the past, what would be 10 years for the Verizon agreement here. The best way to go about doing that, and what we include in the proposal here, is by performing a franchise fee audit. The core of this relationship between the borough and Verizon in this case is that exchange of compensation for use of public rights of way. But the franchise fee payment conceptually is something that is almost entirely unaccounted for unless an audit like this is performed, right? You receive quarterly payments from Verizon. Those payments are accompanied typically by a one-page sheet that justifies the franchise fee, but there's really no way to actually dig into those payments and confirm that all of the compensation that is due to the borough is in fact being provided by Verizon. So performing that franchise fee audit allows us to really dig through their revenue records with a fine-tooth comb, ensuring that all required revenue sources are included in the calculation of gross revenues, ensuring that all residents of the borough that are subscribers to Verizon are being accounted for, because cable systems are not built along municipal boundaries. So we often find that there's some bleed over between municipalities where you may have residents whose revenue and thus franchise fee is being given to your neighboring municipality. So it's something that, again, we really don't have an opportunity to look into unless we perform a formal franchise fee audit like this, which is something that is in fact governed by and contemplated by the existing cable franchise agreement that we have with Verizon. And then when it comes to ascertaining your future cable related needs, there's no set process for that, but what's typically required is that the borough conduct a public hearing whereby residents are able to essentially voice any concerns that they have either with Verizon's performance or with the future of Verizon's cable service within the borough, and whether that be relating to service availability, if that's an issue, cost of service, things of that nature, issues with construction, because these cable systems, while largely built out, do feature ongoing construction as new subscribers are brought onto the system or old subscribers drop off. All of that needs to be reviewed as we move into the franchise renewal with Verizon. And that allows us to kind of have a base level of knowledge when it comes to past performance, what the borough needs moving forward in order to dive into a meaningful cable franchise renewal negotiation that is not something that's kind of one size fits all, right? We want to make sure that it's something that is specific to the borough, meeting all of the borough's needs as we move forward over that term. The negotiation process that we propose in the proposal here starts with our firm preparing a base level franchise agreement draft from which the negotiations would begin. That is essentially kind of a gold standard agreement that would maximize the borough's rights and opportunities under this cable franchise agreement. And then Verizon would come back, of course, with a draft that would essentially maximize the rights in their direction, right? And then we would work with them to reach a middle ground that's acceptable to the borough in compliance with the slew of laws and regulations that govern this area, and meets the borough's needs over the next, what would typically with a Verizon agreement be 5 years at this point in time, due to their kind of unwillingness to enter into these long-term agreements. With Verizon particularly, they are extremely difficult to negotiate with. They are in a position where they are really seeking to strip down these agreements, whereas in the past, they were the newest entrant into the cable market. So they were willing to give a lot to municipalities. They were willing to agree to more favorable terms for municipalities, whereas at this point in time, they are really seeking to strip back these agreements for something that is much more favorable to Verizon. And there are a number of issues that arise in these negotiations that we would need to address in the renewal negotiation, whether that be Verizon's desire to have what we call unilateral termination, the ability to revoke or terminate the agreement mid-term, and the procedures around that process, addressing changes in the law that have occurred since we negotiated the previous agreement, in particular the FCC's what we call the 621 order, which is an order from the FCC that addresses how what we call in-kind services are provided to municipalities. That would be services to community facilities, as well as any other kind of tangible services that would be provided. The FCC has changed the regulations around those types of services as well. And then something that's of extreme importance, but may seem inconsequential, is what we call competitive equity. Competitive equity is a requirement in every franchise agreement, essentially saying that cable operators will be treated equally. You can't give more favorable terms to a competing cable operator than you are giving to an incumbent cable operator that already exists. Cable operators, and in particular Verizon, have been really seeking to expand that language out to where it would address technologies and companies that are not cable operators, not governed by the law applicable to cable operators, but nonetheless would be brought into the four corners of this cable franchise agreement. Something that is exceedingly dangerous for municipalities. It can create a lot of vulnerabilities whereby companies who are not subject to paying the cable franchise fee, for example, would be required to be treated with equity with Verizon, which would, in theory, allow Verizon to potentially escape the payment of that cable franchise fee. So there's a lot that's changed since the last franchise agreement was negotiated. It's certainly a different negotiation tenor than we've seen in the past. So we're contemplating all of this in the proposal that we have here. It's being presented as a group negotiation with the COG, which provides a number of benefits, right? Primarily financial benefits, right? The more municipalities that join on to this project, it allows for discounted pricing on the flat fee that we perform these projects for. We're currently sitting at 5 participating municipalities. So the next municipality, if that were to be the borough, would trigger an additional 5% discount on that flat fee. It's something that we as a firm like to offer on the flat fee basis because it does provide you all with price certainty. It's not something where we're kind of churning away at an hourly rate where you don't know what this project will ultimately cost. We can very clearly spell out the total cost of the project up front, and that's listed at the end of the proposal that you have before you. So perhaps a bit more background than you all expected, but happy to answer any and all questions that you have about the proposal or franchising in general.
Okay, so thank you for that extensive information. Do you have any questions? Go ahead, Brian.
I was curious about, you said there were other providers that weren't necessarily cable providers that Verizon was trying to drag into the negotiation for the franchise agreement. Are we talking about over the set-top box like Netflix and things like that, or is it something more subtle? I was just curious.
So you're spot on. The main culprits that we see are streaming providers, whether that be Netflix, Hulu, YouTube TV. There are so many of them out there these days, and none of those companies have to pay a cable franchise fee. So we are extremely unwilling to kind of welcome them into this competitive equity language. because it does create that vulnerability whereby Verizon could point to, say, a Netflix and say, well, hey, they don't pay the cable franchise fee. They're offering video service here. We shouldn't have to pay that fee as well. So that's absolutely who they're contemplating. We also see kind of a potential of pulling in wireless companies as well, who are operating wireless services within the borough, over which video streaming companies are providing their service offerings as well. So it's something that we're really not looking to expand on behalf of our municipal clients, just due to that vulnerability that would be created.
And I thought federal law, I think that net neutrality had kind of been explored and not gotten anywhere. So, and that was all about the over the set-top box providers and trying to, because in the end, the consumers were going to wind up with a big bill because of what was going on with the net neutrality. Is that part of this then? This is kind of a backdoor into that again, is what they're trying to do with the franchise negotiations.
Yeah, so it's not so much a net neutrality issue as much as it is touching on what's called the mixed use rule. It's something that's been kind of in flux at the federal level. There's been lawsuits about it that have unfortunately not been settled on the side of municipalities. Essentially, the mixed use rule says that any companies who are providing kind of an internet service, that internet service element is not subject to cable franchising at all. So anyone who is a strictly quote unquote internet-based provider is not permitted to be cable franchised under federal law at all. And that's kind of where that inconsistency arises from and that vulnerability.
Because Verizon's got their fiber optic internet service throughout Franklin Park. Is that something that's going to be part of this franchise agreement? Is this a separate thing? Or is it because they're interoperative that that's all going to be included in the franchise agreement?
So the franchise agreement is only permitted to touch on cable, right? We're not allowed by law to include internet within the four corners of the agreement itself. With that said, and the reason they call it the mixed use rule, right, is that it's the same exact system. The cable system is the internet system. It's all FiOS. It's the same infrastructure in the public rights of way. We have an additional wrinkle with Verizon where they have their telephone service as well. They're a public utility. So it's this mixed kind of regulatory environment that we see with Verizon, all of which needs to be reconciled within the agreement itself. But the content and the context of the agreement is strictly cable-based. It will by nature affect the internet service or the internet system due to the fact that it is the same infrastructure, but we are not permitted, say, to regulate internet service or speeds or anything that's strictly internet-based in the agreement.
And in the franchise negotiation, historically, since your law firm has a long history of dealing with Verizon and franchise agreement dealing with auditing, is there historical type of what's the word I'm looking for, tendency towards after a municipality or the group of municipalities in the COG have paid the legal fees for the audit, they've actually come on to the plus side of this, if you know, because I'm just curious about that too. Or is it just basically breaking even, but everybody knows they're being treated fairly?
No, it's a great question and an important question that I will give probably a very lawyerly answer to, which is it depends. When it comes to the franchise fee audits, we find underpayments of some kind in over 60% of the audits that we perform. So we often do find franchise fee underpayments. Those underpayments could be $200, they could be $200,000. It simply depends on the specifics of a given municipality's franchise fee payments that you've seen, right? So we've seen, a number of them with Verizon, we've seen them with other cable operators as well, but I would be hesitant to give you any kind of hard number that you could expect because it really is just dependent upon the facts of your given payment history over what would be the past 4 years of payments from Verizon.
This is an audit into the past to see if they owe any money. That's part of what's going on. Is that some type of leverage for the negotiation for the next 5 years going forward?
That's absolutely correct. So any underpayments that we find would be leveraged both for our negotiating strength as well as for kind of specific provisions when it comes to enforcements or penalties or kind of strengthening the audit provisions in the agreement. If we have a history of recorded noncompliance, that will naturally strengthen our position when it comes to Verizon, who would typically say, we have no issues. Why is this language necessary? If there is a recorded history of noncompliance, that certainly strengthens our positions.
And I'm concerned you talked about the termination and them trying to figure out how to unilaterally terminate. As a lawyer, I'm concerned that that's possible because it kind of leaves you in a situation where we spent the money to negotiate a franchise agreement. They turn around and decide to not try to jump out of it after 2 years or before the term ends. So the fact that they're arbitrarily saying they're negotiating for 5 years is just that. It's arbitrary if they get a unilateral termination. Do you have some history dealing with them and constraining them to the term that they're claiming we're negotiating for? Is that something that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so we don't allow Verizon to kind of unilaterally, with no notice, terminate an agreement, right? That would be something that we would never agree to. What we typically look to do with Verizon agreements is to bake in some kind of gating factor that would govern when they would be able to trigger some sort of termination of that nature. And it would be contingent upon a significant loss of subscribers, right? They lose, X% of their subscriber base. They would then be able to pursue a termination of some kind. That termination would then include a ramp down period, a significant ramp down period, because this is often a significant line item in your budgets, right? We don't want you to suddenly have franchise fees cut off. So we would include a long ramp down period whereby you would know what's coming. In a 5-year agreement, the ramp down period is going to make it extremely difficult to escape the 5-year period or the term that we're looking at. But we are, intimately aware of budgeting issues, things of that nature. We want to make sure that it's something that has predictability and makes sense if it were to occur. We haven't seen it occur anywhere, but we do make sure that you have a long runway if something like that were to come to pass.
And I'm just guessing, but the utilization of cable services in general must be declining with all the folks just streaming. They're just buying internet, bringing it into their house and then streaming stuff. That's going to be an issue going forward, isn't it? This issue of the cable, what you get from your cable franchise fees if cable is dwindling, if I understand it correctly.
Correct. Yes. So we're seeing subscriber counts going down with what we call cord cutting. That makes that negotiation of kind of the gross revenues line item or definition that much more important, right? We want to make sure that we are maximizing the franchise fee as much as we can to combat, any diminishing subscriber counts that we would be seeing.
Yeah, good questions. Anyone else?
Yeah, do these audits happen usually looking back at the end of a term, or do you set times during a term to do the audits?
Yeah, great question. So the most frequent time that they occur is at renewal, simply because, a 10-year term agreement, it's something that frequently is signed and then not thought about again until expiration comes around. The way that the agreement establishes the borough's right to do franchise fee audits is that we can do them every 4 years. Typically, you're not permitted to do them more than once every 3 years, which, wouldn't make a whole lot of sense at a 4-year look back anyway. So you would be able to perform them essentially on a 4-year rolling basis if you were so inclined to do so.
Mike, you said they've been very stubborn with coming to terms on these agreements lately. Have you run into any situations where they just wouldn't play ball and you've been stuck?
So no, I mean, they can't legally continue to operate without a franchise agreement, right? If it were to come to pass where they simply refuse to negotiate, we would then trigger that formal process that I mentioned earlier. The FCC would get involved. Again, it's exceedingly unlikely. We are at a point with Verizon, certainly one of the benefits of going with our firm for this, where we have kind of broken down those walls, right? Your predecessors in these negotiations, the negotiations were extremely long, right? Because we had to kind of get over those initial hurdles. We're at a point now where we have a good relationship with Verizon. We understand who their negotiators are, what their negotiating positions are. So it does afford some efficiencies when it comes to these negotiations. they can streamline that process significantly.
Thanks.
On my competitive equity, when you say we can't have terms more favorable to one company than another, how closely do those have to align in terms of negotiations? Does that sort of hamstring our negotiations if we're comparing agreements that we have with other providers?
Yeah, great question. So by law, we're not allowed to discriminate, right? What discrimination means is up for debate. So the way that we craft our competitive equity provisions is that the agreements, when taken as a whole, are not more favorable or excuse me, more burdensome or less favorable on the party that's subject to the agreement than it would be on other cable operators. So that provides some flexibility in that determination, right? Because they will never be one-to-one agreements. They're never going to be exactly the same, particularly when it comes to, say, the Borough situation with Verizon and Comcast, whereby Verizon, as a public utility, has certain rights for occupying the rights of way that Comcast doesn't have. So those agreements will never mesh one-to-one. So negotiating that language to specifically state that when taken as a whole, more broadly based, allows us some more flexibility in that area. The main issues that would arise with competitive equity are financial, right? So we can't give Verizon a 5% franchise fee and Comcast a 2% franchise fee. That's pretty straightforward. Things like bonding, or I don't think that the borough has a public access channel, but financial compensation for public access channels. Those are the areas where really that competitive equity comes into play the most.
Okay, and one more question. The franchise fees, it says in this document, are passed through to cable subscribers. So do we really want to ramp up all those categories as much as we can if it's all getting passed back to our residents?
It's a great question, and it ultimately is a policy issue, right? We often hear it described as a tax, right? It's not so much a tax because it is strictly imposed upon people who are utilizing the service. It's more of a user fee, right? The only people who pay that franchise fee are subscribers to that cable system. The amount of the franchise fee certainly is something that is a policy issue. We see municipalities, charging the full 5% more often than not. Certainly some do elect to either lower their percentage or lower their definition of gross revenues as a result of that pass-through.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions for Mike? Yep, go ahead, Reach.
Just as a follow-up on this, we did have a meeting with Dan Cohen, with some of the managers. At that meeting, my sense was that we will probably get to 11 municipalities who will want to participate. We do have a deadline of, I believe it's July 31st to make a decision, but if council is comfortable with this, you can certainly do that at the June meeting in 2 weeks. And then we can be on board as number 6.
Which triggers the first.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Domino effect for the other municipalities.
Basically.
Yeah.
If we get to the second threshold.
Yeah.
We can draw it further.
Okay.
Cool.
Good deal.
Okay. Mike, you have any questions for us? We'll close it out.
No, I think that's everything. Thank you all for having me and for the insightful questions. We look forward to hearing from you on the proposal.
Good. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay, awesome, moving on. So old business, home rule charter update. Thanks.
Sure, wrote in my solicitor's report, some of the details, but was able to have a good conference call with both Al and Sitnick. I barely recognize him. Oh, stress. No, maybe. But he is retiring at the end of the year. He's a long time sort of elections guru with the law department. Lisa Michelle, John Rushford's wife, is taking over. And getting up to speed and participated in the primary. So we went through the draft ordinance that we put together. They said that was fine. We were able to use the borough's name rather than municipality. Asked him questions because the law says, the number of signatures you need are 200 or 2% of the number of votes in the last gubernatorial election. It doesn't say, just in the municipality, so statewide, that's a pretty big number. But they have said that they've always interpreted it, it's just in the municipality. So I have calculated for the call, how many I thought. And the number 2% is 164 is needed because it's 163.4. So they round up at any time for any point. So you need 164 signatures to be on the ballot for the Government Study Commission. And it doesn't matter that you only need 10 to be borough council, no equalizer that way. But he did say there is no restriction on who runs. It can be current council members, it could be current appointees to other bodies, as long as they are a resident in the borough. So
This
it's
is,
a placement.
this is a question. So is that considered like a political position
It's
where?
not, it's supposed to be, because you do nomination papers
Yeah.
rather than petitions, that the language there is, without, political endorsements. And so it's similar to, I guess, both an independent candidate or even like the school board candidate, I guess you can cross-file or anything like that, but, it is
But it's without party. It's
without
just-
party.
Right.
It's just 164 signatures of residents.
Since
18
it's on a general, since it's a November ballot, there's no like specific ballot per party.
No.
That too, that's good too.
And,
What about signatures to non-votes, but can't switch over?
Potentially, if somebody does a challenge, there is that challenge process. I think only thing that's happening at the counties, they check and see you have enough. They are definitely not cross-checking. I don't think if you submit 160 and they can see you don't have enough, what happens if you submit 9 as a borough council member? Do they just say, okay, we'll see who objects? I think they have at least one stop to make sure each line is filled in for that number. But, it would be open to challenges in that very short time period, 7 days to file a challenge, to any of the names would go in front of Judge McGinley now, whoever took over for Judge James, quick turnaround. It'd be the similar ones. Did you sign more than one? Are you a resident?
You can't sign as many as there are petitions.
I don't know. I mean,
No, it's normally how it works, like
Yeah.
if it's 8
For
spots or
political,
9
yeah,
spots, you get to sign for not those 9 spots. You couldn't sign for 10 or 11 or 12, but you get to nominate for each of the spots. Because those people aren't running against each other per
Right.
se, they're just running to.
in a group to fill 7
Yeah.
spaces.
Maybe back to Alan, yeah?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's
Because the next thing I want to ask is it considered political, if it's not considered political activity, then can we, at the well, when are nomination petitions allowed to be circulated? I
not
got it.
until I wrote it down, August 6th.
Okay, so it's
August,
it's after the festival then, because the greatest time to get any signature would be right.
3-week period,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah.
keyed off of the election date, not when we pass the ordinance.
Can the borough assist in getting the signatures? Can they create situations where constituents come in and get and sign for the signs?
Like a Q&A.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm learning about this.
Yeah,
As it's not as politically based,
Yeah.
it does not seem to be as restrictive in terms of those
kind of
types of
brainstorm.
Yeah.
issues.
But just going back to Brian's question about the 9.
No,
Seven.
Says,
So what's the issue? Like the person can only sign once?
well, we're not sure now.
Normally, it's like the school board.
Yeah, like school board.
With 3 offices, you could set 3 up for.
Yeah,
On the ballot.
so I'm proposing we should, people should be able to sign
Exactly.
for as many slots
Okay,
as there are.
we need to
No more.
clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's 7.
Yeah,
that's what I
I mean,
wanted.
you should.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That's from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, no,
Otherwise, you're limiting numbers.
it can cause confusion and challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can clarify that, I guess.
on that one, yeah, and that would be something for early August, so we have
Yeah, we got
time on
time.
that.
Yeah.
But the ordinance, is ready to go. It's on the draft agenda for introduction and then vote July. There's no requirement for a public hearing or for additional advertising other than typical
Yeah.
ordinance.
You mentioned, well.
Yeah.
We want to talk about this. Can we come with like a 1-page fact sheet that's understandable to our folks here that can be available for the festival? as
Like
part of the
a
information?
Q&A. It should be just straightforward, just something at the, first of all, I wanted to ask, like,
Yeah.
do we have a table At the festival? Or-
Like for an official, like. Borough sale.
Zach, do we have, Zach, do we have an official Franklin Park Borough table?
We always set up a table that we can
Okay.
give you information with.
Yeah, I'll stay there. It's fine. With this info.
Yeah.
We'll put some together and pass. them.
Just one page, simple,
What we call plain English, we don't want to.
just something the
Those,
average.
those.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, but it's
Not the way
perfect.
But I'm gonna have my.
No, man, it's plain English.
And so do we want to have, is there any way we can set up an email address or something so people can ask?
Yeah, but,
Like, if they
home
have
rule,
interest,
home rule charter or HRC.
like home rule.
Oh,
Yeah, we've got the old comp plan email address that we're not using anymore, so we can.
Repurchase the box.
Alienated.
Same email address, you change, say whatever you want to say, it's not.
Okay, we'll just rename it.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's home rule, we don't need the charter, but.
Home rule.
Yeah, it's the home rule.
Home
Like
rule.
Franklin Park Borough.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then we're getting landing page for it too, for educational.
Good flyer.
Yeah. Okay.
Something-
Put the flyer up, so when somebody asks the bot, what's the home rule charter? It
Yeah.
pops the flyer up on
I've already asked.
it. Sorry.
Other stuff. Okay, anything else in the rule? No. Okay, cool. All right, on new business, review the June 19, 2024 agenda. That's a notable.
Yes, as we mentioned, just the introduction. Well, how many times have we looked at this? Did anybody catch that it's the minutes of June 55?
No, I haven't done it too many times. I gloss over
I
it.
don't remember seeing that before.
All right, we'll fix that.
Yeah. Inventing a new method at a time.
Kind of like the back feature. The thing. 1955.
There you go, back 1855. But yes, we've got that. Do want to talk a little bit about motion 6, an executive session under potential property acquisition, have a bit of an update on that one, and some negotiations, positions. So add that to the list at the end of the meeting. The other items we hear from Public Works and Parks regarding their wish list of potential purchases.
We'll be adding,
Yes. Further appliance sale. Then plain English.
Very
Okay. Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Anything else? No? All right, very good. Okay. All right, reports from staff. Scott?
Well, I did submit a report to kind of give you some idea of what we've been doing. And I guess only in addition to that, I was just gonna mention that, I think in this month of June, I'll begin to schedule some meetings with these guys to kind of review some actual budget. Progress in terms of how we're looking through the 5 or 6 months. So we'll have the budget meeting, next month in July. But, again, just trying to get this accounting cycle down and, then kind of reconcile for audit ready come end of year. So that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it. It's straightforward.
Yeah. And we're not at the point of thinking about pen bets yet. But yeah,
not yet,
more of an
Not
on.
yet.
Okay, another one.
hopefully. The Ramblewood project, we'll be talking about the easement in executive session. We then will have to resubmit plan to DEP. So we may not be ready for July. That one may join the 2 stream bank restorations in October.
Okay.
Timeframe.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, along with my report there, Andy, did you have a picture of that one, later? I don't know if we have a laser pointer or.
I can use the mouse pointer for you.
Okay. This is a picture of, over the area of White Oak Court off and then Reese Run. This is just right past the golf course. The area that I have with the red line across there, we have two basins that are on Reese Run Road. That has stormwater that goes down and follows that red line all the way down to the detention pond. Or this, on the spillway side of the detention pond that comes out of White Oak Court. Anyhow, this pipe is probably in the area like 10-inch, 12-inch, there's a couple different sizes in there. The pipe's plugged up. This pipe had to be put in years ago by residents or some resident along here that follows down along this property. Where you see the white line, just south of the white line, there's a 5-acre plot in there, rectangular shape that goes all the way back to the golf course. That this pipe follows down to the detention pond in White Oak. Anyhow, if you come back up towards the houses along White Oak, if you come up there and you come up that white spot up here on the where the red line is. Right here? Yes, right in there, like coming through there, and that area straight from that down to the house below it. There's water shooting out of the ground on the heavy rainstorms. So apparently this pipe in the areas down through there is coming apart, shooting water up out, it's flooding, there's causing water damage down into the people in White Oak. They're complaining about everything's moist up in there. The only problems that we have here are the driveway that this thing crosses, an asphalt driveway. This pipe, like I said, was put in years ago, has no real collars on it. We actually had a couple areas and we did a couple of repairs on it. And then, like I said, it's just going further down the line. We tried cameraing it. You can't get down through with the camera. My question to the council, to you as council on this, this project, if we do this project, it's probably with labor, probably repairing that driveway, asphalt the driveway, cut across it, putting manholes in, 600 plus feet pipe that we're gonna put down through there. You know, we're looking at probably $25,000-$30,000 in this job.
And again, this is a state road, and it was daylighted, but somebody along the way piped it in themselves so that they would have access to that property. So we would be adding pipe that is not currently part of our system. PennDOT is certainly going to come back and say, since it's water from under the surface of the road, it's our problem to deal with. But somewhere along the way, it used to daylight and run down probably through a swale. And somebody took it upon themselves to pipe it in, and now that'd be our problem.
There's no easement or anything?
No easement, there's nothing there.
I know that when we were dealing with the whole White Oak issue years before, that large house across the street, those
Yes.
residents would complain that water was just shooting down through White Oak. Is that part of the problem or not, or it's?
You're talking on the other side on County Grave side?
Across
Yeah,
Reese Run.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue anymore.
Okay.
I remember when it was, I remember seeing it flood the golf.
Yeah,
course.
this sheet.
But anyhow, these two basins that feed it as reached that too, is like where it comes out on the, if you're looking at the picture here on the right side of the picture of Reese Run that's coming out. Somewhere along that years back, that was probably just dumped out into the property there. It was probably an end wall. They come out there and then the resident owns that, probably that 5-acre plot. Or somebody along the line, they're piped that all the way down through their curve to the spillway side of the detention pond. And like I said, if we get into this, with, like I said, the amount of we're gonna have with labor and pipe and manholes and everything we put in there, plus we'll have to get an easement put on that. We'll have to have that, registered, that easement. It's gonna all have to be documented as an easement there for us. That's gonna have to be done through the engineers. I mean, it's gonna be a costly job here. I mean, I can't make a decision. I mean, it's the residents are complaining about, I just don't know what to do, and that's why I'm bringing it up, to council to see, what our options, what we can do.
When you've explained to them what the situation is,
What's the reaction?
say?
They don't, the residents, they just don't care. They're saying their properties are being damaged by the water coming down there. They don't care. They actually thought at some point there, because MTSA actually put a sewer line down through there. If you look like where that was down to where that white spot was that Andy showed you, there's if you drop down south of that, there's a line that goes up through there. MTSA put a line down through there. A couple of the one resident on the left-hand side, that white thing was just basically saying, well, ever since that was put in, it created problems down through there, because MTSA ran a line down through there, but like I said, we try to camera that line. It is plugged. It's plugged, it's undersized. I don't know what we can do with it. I don't think there's any
Pipe is not enough.
possible way that we can get up in there and clean this thing out. Mind that too is the areas that we did get in there and try to fix it one time, there was no collars in these pipes. So we actually went there and wrapped it. We did a wrap on the pipe because the water was shooting up out of the ground in a couple areas. Up above that, when we first started. Like I said, now it's going down and shooting out of the yard, the residents down below there,
Is there
And
a
if-
channel that you can kind of follow and maybe daylight, maybe past the driveway? Feed it down?
There's, you can probably, yeah, but I think even if we channel it down that way, it's still gonna get, if somehow with the slope of the ground, everything going down there, we're gonna get a lot of runoff water that's coming down there along the born rainstorms, because even if we pipe this, they're still gonna have probably a severe amount of runoff water from rainstorms, because everything slopes down towards the houses on White Oak Court.
So
You channel it,
So-
don't rip wrap it.
If we do that at some
Wash it
point,
out.
there's,
That valley, like an old.
So,
if something passes over down or whatever, it's gonna create we'd have to dig a good sized swell down through there and probably put stone and everything just to get it to fall all that way down there.
it's the back of the houses on White Oak they're having an
Yes.
issue,
Yes.
because that does level out in there, right?
It drops down, you get down, it drops straight down onto on the houses
Yeah.
that, you go from the restaurant, that second house in, the second and third house. It has a good drop straight down in their backyard. They have a lot of, wall stones down in there, and they're claiming it's gonna damage all their wall stones. The water's running down the steps of the wall stones, that they put in there. Like I said, there's still gonna be a fair amount of runoff water. I mean, you could probably put a swell down through there and, possibly, but, we're still talking, we have to take that all the way down to probably the backside of the detention pond. We don't want to put it in
It's
there.
pretty far, I mean.
Put it into
far.
there. Yeah, you're talking
To the
600
stream start.
yeah.
600
Where
plus
that-
feet.
Where the red
Yeah.
line sort of ends, the emergency spillway, and then there's
Yeah.
a stream.
And then when we get down to the lower part where down where the detention pond is, there's a lot of trees involved in there. So there's a good possibility we're gonna take out quite a few trees to get that down through there, and it's just, it's not a good situation.
Doesn't help with
It's
water.
not, and I don't think we need to be adding infrastructure.
I mean, I actually even thought about possibly the trying to maybe see, but we would have to get a permit from PennDOT to run it down the road towards,
Right.
and then tie it in, but then that's forcing more water onto the golf course side,
Which already
and
has.
which we
enough
don't
issues,
wanna
right, Jim?
probably do that point too, because we just took care of all that other
Yeah, right.
problems down there too, so that's the only other alternative we had.
So when you try the camera, there's not, it's a go nowhere.
You can't, yeah,
So
you-
shooting a
If
line.
you get a camera down in there, you can't get it anywhere, it's just.
So shooting a line's impossible, you can't just.
A liner,
take a
yeah,
line. You
You need to go down and clean it out?
That's right.
Yeah.
No.
He's talking about inside pipe.
Inside
Oh,
line,
no, yeah.
that's not possible.
Yeah, it's not possible.
Yeah, okay.
Plus the size of it, I think it's an 18 that comes across the road, and then that drops down to like, I think it's like a 10 or 12 inches. It's size different going down in a couple areas that we've seen, but like I said, it's just, it's pieced together.
Did the homeowner cover it on their own? I mean, is that kind of legal?
Seems like
Uh,
some, I mean, if it was daylighting before and if that driveway's going over, I mean, I guess we could check the building permit to see when they went in, if they had any types of drawings with respect to it, but
I mean, if this was done, it was probably done, I've been here for going on 29 years.
1950s,
Juan Moscow, a couple of other guys have been here, they said that nothing's as far back as they remember, nothing's ever.
Okay, so it's.
How long has this particular problem been going on?
Well, we just started having, because of the heavier rainstorms that we're getting, this has just been brought up this year, probably with the heavy rainstorms that we've had. We're getting more and more calls, because every rainstorm we're getting now is a downpour.
Is it
And it's
possible
just, the amount of water and,
With that thing totally plugged, it's possible it just collapse?
yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what kind of pipe is even pieced all the way down through there, because we run into a couple of different pieces going into there.
You said the water's shooting out at certain places.
Yes, it was actually down in the yard Where that white structure is, the house is slightly to the right of that was White Oak Court.
Okay.
It's shooting up by probably a foot out of the ground out there.
Who owns the property that is like a tight to where the water?
It's a huge house, right? It's here, right?
Yeah, this,
See, that's why I was asking before.
Well, what I'm.
There was a lot of sheeting coming down through here before,
Uh-huh.
when we were dealing with this issue over here.
Yeah,
Reach says that things have been.
Yeah, I think.
this plot here is like a 5 acre plot that runs from
I
here,
remember there
from
was.
this
work on the
fence
golf
line up
course.
all the way down to the golf fence.
Is it?
So that water shooting out of the ground is coming out at this house, right down in about down in here.
And what you're pointing to, the green you're pointing on is owned by that house.
Yes, this is owned by the house here, but now I don't know where the line is. We would have to have this probably possibly surveyed off or something, because there's a fence line that runs right through here. This is all fence line. Now, they believe that there's an area that's a small area in between, possibly maybe 10, 15 foot wide, that's owned by this property here. And that's the possibility that pipe's running all the way down through.
You'd have to ask the engineer, but what if you dug up, a portion of where you were pointing to, where the water's, and run some type of put a big like gravel, something that would catch and slow it down so it wouldn't actually get to the rest of it, like a French drain, like a rectangular.
But you
shape.
still, you still have to have a place to run it. I mean, we have, if I don't,
Yeah.
can either have to run this way or run this way. Because everything here just drops to this house, this is the higher point over here. And then when you get to this house here, everything drops down into this house. And then everything along here just drops over a hillside down in each one of these houses after you get across this fence.
Like a mini waterfall.
Yeah, and whatever comes out of here just runs down their steps onto their driveway. And it's, like I said, it's pretty good drop down into their yard.
Where's White Oak Court on that drawing?
White Oak Court says it, right, it runs down in here.
That's it right.
This is the detention pond. This is the detention pond in here. Patty Gray's house is over here. This is where we ran the pipe from the golf course down this way, and it came across over in the detention pond.
And again, I don't know that we want to put any more water into the detention.
No,
No, that's why I'm trying
All of
to
that,
get
yeah.
away from that.
Because
I was talking about a really simple like gravel pit that's under the ground.
I mean, for the length that you're going, it's probably cost prohibitive to even do something like that, right?
I mean, it's, you mean to go down all the way.
All the way
through.
to the
Just
street.
do it.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's
yeah.
gonna be a costly job. And like I said, I had some, got pricing on pipe and stuff like that and labor on what I thought, but like I said, with these trees in here, I don't know what's all gonna have to come out in
The
here.
fence and the driveway.
This driveway in here is all asphalt. We're probably, any place we cut in here, we're probably gonna have to asphalt it to the end, up into there. And then, to put this in, I originally was thinking like some open top basins if we ever did it. The problem is with open top basins is then we're gonna have to control the overflow of the runoff water too. So this is, if you put it in, you probably wanna have this with manholes and have this sealed all the way down through and say, okay, the only water that we have that is ours is coming through these two basins. And we'll pipe down through.
So here,
As this area is all drops down here. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of rainwater and runoff water that we're gonna get from rainstorms. It's gonna actually go back down into this valley, down towards the house too.
Those are our basins, those two on the east.
Well, this is the state. That's
Their PennDOT's great.
PennDOT's
PennDOT,
great.
Everything below the
That's
grades,
PennDOT, and they're gonna-
PennDOT's is out.
so if everything was perfect in that thing. that
Within
you've
the
got-
right of way, though, that's the other thing, that we've always put back on them, we talk to other people. I mean, Shaler, took the position, we don't care, like, fine, we'll just let the things run out, and so PennDOT finally caved or so, but. And the other ones that we have had to fix, either up the road further or at the inlet level, to increase the flow into them. Turnbull one and then the other one, way to Bell Acres or so. But I can't recall anything that took us 600 feet out of the right of way.
No.
Because that's the PennDOT rule that says, boroughs, we are responsible for enclosed surface water drainage facilities within PennDOT right of way. We're off there. I don't think that one, like the Turnbull one, I mean, that one,
So our responsibility is making sure the pipe under the road is functioning,
Yeah.
but as far as,
and then we're getting
Out
out
of the right of
private.
way.
Yeah.
was put in by a private property owner.
Yeah, you must have like that state area with pipes okay.
And you can't identify where in the pipes there's a.
No, we
split.
started Cameron from up in the upper end here. You can't get down very far before it stops. I mean, it's plugged up. Like
It's what?
it's
what-
plugged in, you know, probably half full in areas and you can't get past it, and then further down, it's still running water down through somewhere. Now, how it got down into here and come out of the yard, I have no idea.
Yeah, and you can't jet the pipe.
You
There's no
can't,
way to float.
700
You'll
feet
never
pipe,
work.
it's gonna be a long way. You probably have to most likely jet it from the bottom so that all that material, anything that's washed out.
Use that.
Down that way. I don't even know if we, and the thing about it too is the way the pipe was pieced together in the areas that we did a couple of repairs up above here. We had to actually put stuff over top of the pipe because there was no bells on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no ways to pipe that, you know, even without bells, we normally have on our corrugated pipe has a band that goes on it where it has ridges in it and it locks it together. There's nothing on this pipe that's even locking together. So it's just hard to tell. Even if you jetted it down from the bottom down and somehow got up that far, there's probably going to be a lot of separations in the pipe all the way up through there in different places. And I just don't even know what kind of condition, even if we got up that far.
So are we clear that we're responsible for this water?
No.
Or that's hard.
That's, yeah, we
don't think-
don't know that. I mean, it's,
Okay.
you know,
I would say, I mean, in terms of, one, checking the building file for that, and looking at that parcel, that's an odd shape, and it is 5 acres, it goes on, so check anything related to that in Tim's file, and maybe looking at the White Oak original plans, if they showed some type of drainage easement or something in the back of those properties, that might give us some information to go on, but I don't think we, like, right now, we can't say, oh yeah, let's start digging up. Yeah, we don't have the rights to get in there. We don't have an easement. And although it's coming from a public source, the sourced water is coming from PennDOT's roads, and this might be one we put down and say, look, it's not an inlet issue. It's not right there. It's an off-site. It's where your water goes when it's leaving your surface. You deal with it. They're not gonna do, but at the end of the day, it's like private property.
Yeah, should probably look at the documentation on this, see what we can pull together, and then we'll meet again in 2 weeks, see what we got.
yeah, from things that I was looking through different areas and stuff, I couldn't find any type of easements.
Yeah.
That I could see. I don't know, unless I missed something somewhere along the line. Different places and looking through, didn't see any type of pipe easement down through there. I think even some of the records we have, I think it was just showing, off of Reese Run was just showing an outfall on that spot. That was it, you know.
Yeah.
But how long back that thing was, how long it was put in there? You know, it's like I said, talking with our guys, that you know, the guys who've been there longer than me, I mean, nobody has any kind of recollection. You know, it's not something we would even put in because we don't even, you know, back then, we don't put that size pipe in the way.
How many houses are affected?
With the water going now, there's, actually the 3 houses right in that row, those 3 right along here, the next one up. Yeah, that one, and the one up further up towards that one area.
Wow.
Those 3 right there.
Really?
Yeah, those are the ones that are complaining. The one in the middle has the water coming up out of it. And that's,
It's an HOA, right, with White Oak.
I don't think.
That's not quite-
they have
Oh, okay. We still, check documentation, see where we are.
Wow.
hey, I just, like I said, I want to bring it to the attention of council.
They had
on
to
that.
mention no
Yeah.
allowances, at some point, there was an HOA. It might be defunct now, you don't have it, so.
We should check the historical documentation.
Street law.
Yeah, figure that out. Okay. Okay. Here, anything else?
Yeah, I was just asking Scott because I was talking.
Yeah.
The next thing that I have, Andy, this is a picture of our salt dome. That we have over off of Nicholson Road. The blue area is where we are, that's a stockpile that we've been stockpiling salt for the last couple of years. Because we, you know, the way we order it, you know, we gotta try to always have on order to be able to have access to probably anywhere from say 4,000 to 6,000 tons of salt through the winter, because we never know what we're gonna get hit with. Last couple of years, we've had mild winters, we've had stockpiles. So this is, each year we stockpile in this area here. We put tarps over it, so I spend, you know, probably anywhere, we spend probably $400 to $600 just on tarps to put on it, because with the tarps on it, they sit all summer. The salt kind of eats through them, you can't use them again. you know, by the time you pull them off, they're destroyed, you can't use them, so you gotta buy new ones. Anyhow, I had talked to a couple, I think about a month ago, I was telling about the different, I had some pricing on putting a structure over that. If you go to that next one, Andy, it's a structure like that we had some pricing through. I was talking about the one, that was under actually a contract. It was, what we're looking is about $40,000 for them to come out and put the structure up. We'll have to put the blocking up, which we have the blocking over there. We'll probably have to just adjust it. They would come out and put this structure up. The structure is right around probably in the area of $26,000 for the structure itself, and then the additional part is for the labor to put this up, for them to come out and put it up. And I was mentioning this before because I had one other bid that was just slightly under the bid process, you know, to where I mean, it was $22,300, and but we were looking more to this because time frame and for them to come out and be able to put the structure up for us. It's an additional cost we're gonna have to pay for. And I was talking with Scott, this is gonna be all taken care of through our liquid fuels. We could pay this liquid fuels money to do this.
What's the advantage to that versus the $800 for tarps every year? You want to go some tarps in there?
Well, this is gonna give us a structure that it's just, you know, it's gonna be up and covered every year, and it's gonna have the back wall is not gonna be open like this one here. It's gonna have a closed back wall on it. It'll just save us for tarping for the next quite a few years. It'll be access wise, be easier in and out. Because when we get into the salt house, taking the tarps back and forth, trying to get the salt out, sometimes it gets a little bit of hassle there too, but,
Is this under coastal or still?
this is through that, through, Sourcewell Fund. And we've dealt with Sourcewell before.
The other thing is, we talked to, what's his name at PennDOT, because if this is considered a project, they make us jump through a lot more hoops. It's not just if they don't consider it a purchase. Like trucks are a purchase, but if they consider it a project,
For the liquid fuels.
you want to check with them as well. Because we've always tried to avoid projects because it's just a lot more.
Okay.
We'll look into that.
But we could even buy this, we could buy this structure ourselves for just, like I said, around, it's gonna cost us around $26,000 to buy the structure. We'd have to put it up ourselves, so, we could do that and avoid that part of it, which you're talking on, Kathy, as far as somebody else coming through Sourcewell and putting it on.
Gary, what's the duration of these, like, how long they last?
They're claiming these are, the tarps on these things are lasting for up to 25 years. 25 year on the span. What they're saying.
Tarps like,
Now that one PennDOT has like over on 79's been up there for quite a few years over there. The one up there by right above T-Bones is 79, or it's a structure like that. There's different companies, there's a few different companies that make them.
it's about $500 a year to buy tarp, like replace tarp, 800.
Yeah.
Anywhere around $500 a year we can tarp them if we, and that's not gotten every year. We're gonna have the stockpile, but it seems more and more that the way the weather's going, we've been stockpiling it, and it's just a thought in that.
Would you say this protects the product a lot better, Gary, a lot less?
It's gonna protect it a lot better. Yeah, it's gonna, the tarps are getting, they'll get areas after a while. The rain will go through and kind of hardens up the salt and kind of, it doesn't destroy it or anything, because you have to get in there and bust it up for the lumps and stuff in the winter time until when it's running through the salt spreaders, creates a lot more lumps with the water going through the tarps.
Do we need a stormwater plan for this, for the size?
Yeah, because it's a road.
It's already in part of the area.
Oh, it's fine.
Do it on the parking lot.
Okay.
Plus, we do have areas, small detention area behind it.
Okay. Any questions? Got anything else?
The only other thing I had here, I just want to mention.
Let's get some more money.
Well, this is trying to, this is trying to,
Oh,
collect- this is trying to collect a little bit.
Inside.
We're still dealing with Westview Water and not paying their permit fees.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as the something, you don't have to decide right now, but relatively soon, a yay or nay.
I mean, I'm just doing the math. and
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing the, I'm
But
not
it's not-
seeing, I'm
but
not
it's
seeing a
not-
turnaround.
Yeah, but the time spent,
Yeah.
breaking up the salt.
True, at some point, we might have to reduce our salt order, but we're already, we're already ordering half what we used to. We're still stockpiling them quite a lot.
But yeah, that's common. We don't get stuck on the winter, then we get back into some bad winters. If we get caught not ordering enough too, then we're gonna pay a premium price on it too, so. Anyhow, the last thing that I had to say there is, I'm still dealing with, Westview not paying their permit fees.
What was the
Will they
nonsense
say-
about how it took a while for them to process it through?
Well, I questioned them on, they told us that they were gonna send it and, I had, questioned why we're not receiving it and said that we were gonna get it and this is all that's been only almost another, probably a month and a half since we talked again on it. So they're looking at probably in the area of $1,300 they owe us on permit fees. So
Is there a fine, it's not just for not paying the permit?
Usually, I have it out with my fingertips, but we just updated that and it can be enforcement action, which I don't think we want to go. Minimum interest charges and some.
We were in front of the district justice.
Not with the new district, just.
No, but he gave us a win. We're not paying for any more civil complaints because next time some legislation that,
Show the judge
and the
and.
judge said, okay. We didn't think it was gonna do that.
Well, he's just,
So
he's
now I don't have
just
to wait a
applying the
couple
law.
weeks for a $200 check.
Well, he's applying the law. So he's doing, but this, Judy West, you are, I mean, the,
Well, the only other thing I could say is, if we could just make out some bills and start sending bills like they send us for the water.
with the interest charge.
I mean, yeah, you turn around and say, yeah. I don't know if that's.
Well,
we can do it.
That'll be.
We keep pumping out.
What is it, 1.5% a month, is it?
Look at what we put in.
But I deal with Peoples and Peoples Gas and all the other ones, and everybody else follows they follow the
Part
right.
of doing business.
They follow the right pattern. They pay for their permits, and that they, everything they're doing is proper. They're following all our new ordinance on everything when they're getting into the, paving the parts that they're digging up on the roads and.
Hopefully we got some teeth in our permit here. It seems like they want to chew on it a little bit before they.
Yeah, I mean, they have for emergencies, they can go in and do it, but the other ones, they don't have a permit. They just want to do a project up there.
Just say no.
Pay up first.
Well, we put a lien on all of the projects that they asked for, they're on emergency, and say, until you pay the ones that you owe, you're not getting the new ones.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's-
all
yeah.
rights of ways. It's
I'm
not.
sure they'll just go out and.
Lot
keep-
block
keep
there.
those.
Gary
Not that
and,
we're digging up our roads.
Gary and Scott Max and I will talk offline.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Go higher up in the food chain at Westview Water and see if we get a response.
All right, that's all I have.
All right, sounds good.
That's it, Gary.
There's that money.
Well, I was trying to collect a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Something back, but not saying.
Tim?
Well, it looks like, we have a, tabled item coming back to the zoning hearing board this month, and the planning commission has a, couple of tabled items. One's a conditional use nursery, revised conditional use nursery, in East Young Road, and, I guess the tree ordinance, which we're talking about next.
That zoning hearing board one, Tim, the people that were objecting, they don't live there, they just own property across from it.
Oh,
Or was that the
so
nursery?
that was for the nursery, yeah, so, yeah.
Where are they on?
He objects to
Across
everything
from the
that,
cross
and
street.
everything that it can come to a public hearing for. He objected to the detached garage that Colosimo had next door to it, so.
You know, is it the right at the corner of the restaurant and.
That's
on
not
the
yet,
campus.
it's property.
So, actually,
We have no application for Deerfield Phase 2B. Coming to the planning commission and, conditional use garage application. It's unfortunate.
And for Deerfield, do you know when they're gonna complete their end of the pedestrian way that connects to Taylor
You
Ridge?
can ask them about that. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that. I'm sure that's gonna be a battle between Miranda Homes and the developer, because Miranda put that in, they just heard them, but.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's gonna. how
New
that's gonna
England,
go.
There, yeah, people are starting to walk on the road again.
But I can ask them about that.
Not good.
No. After we got Taylor Ridge put in
Yeah.
their side,
yeah, we got nice.
it just kind of stopped. Like,
So it's just weird.
well, there's a hill, so.
Can I ask about Laterra?
And then the only other thing I guess would be, I have is still, but let's see, at a meeting that the planning commission would like to have. Council, let's see. So,
No, just no hardship on the Laterra decision, but basically it came down to.
that's what they came down as, yeah, they put it in the hardship, so.
They probably said council can change the ordinance if they.
That was the impression I got.
Yeah. They want to open up.
Actually, I don't think
Where things are-
they said that, there was just, there was a lot of ground cover. No, there's a lot of ground cover. It wasn't too much that, it was just, there was no.
Max, regarding the email I sent you, is there any? Have you heard anything at all from the attorney for Laterra?
I did,
I don't know if it's an executive session or anything.
not, so, well, I mean, it's related to, that, but, as the land use committee had discussed and, sort of the agenda's open with the trees ordinance. And I think we had talked about, previously, we've had 2 of these garage applications. We've had, this is the first height on these townhomes, the end product looked nice. And there was this, discussion of, because there are hardships, these are really just designed, features in the multifamily ordinance that has been in place since 2010 and hasn't really been adjusted. And that was something to task the, land use committee with looking at these 2 particular issues. The attorney, Joe Barada, who was there, was, reached out and asked about, and if they took an appeal, whether it be, grounds for settlement. I told them, well, we're already looking at the ordinance. That's the way we would prefer to go. Did have a conversation today with Bill Sittig, who represents the developer in other instances, but wasn't gonna do this one, do this one. And I let him know we've had these discussions, before. If they had something they wanted to put pen to paper and kick off the discussions with the planning commission, we can do that. We've done other sort of, I would say, collaborative zoning text amendments as opposed to zoning map changes, where we have a process. Or goes to the planning commission, there's an application and thing. Willing to discuss and look at it this way. Not a hardship type issue. Doesn't see it, I mean, nobody's running a dime hill in the size of a garage and the things. And, they're concerned about going down the text amendment process because it's not site specific, that is looking at everything. And thinking about it some more, and they all wait, maybe there is a height issue elsewhere. Yeah, a little hesitant about that, but they know this is the process that should go through, and it should be.
I'm okay if you want to shoot a red line at the proposed amendment for the garage size. I mean, I think everybody counts already talked about what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then you will pick it up if you want us to take a look at the revised, at the garage size, everybody think I agreed on that, but was it also the height of the thing?
I mean, for this is a starting point, I mean, probably multifamily should be looked at just because it has been so long, and we have a comp plan since then. To be on the list, and these are 2
Yeah,
locations that come up.
The applicant came in yesterday too and asked me, if he could give me anything to help the process moving a little faster in this favor. So
And that's what I said, if they have a red line, or they just,
Yeah.
here's what they want to see, at least it's a starting point. Not sitting around and thinking what they might need and it doesn't match. like,
I was just gonna take the next committee spot and have
Yeah.
a news and, take it up, whatever I've got from.
2 weeks from now, or
Huh?
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that's fine. Somebody give me a red line, or they can give me the.
Okay.
Their proposed whatever, and
Yeah.
we'll report back to council.
We had a brief vacation for land use.
Yeah.
You gotta just keep revising.
Well, and I guess, well, we're talking about land use committee and others, as part of the introduction of the trees and wooded areas. Ordinance amendment, and there's a saldo, Kathy and I, the day or two after the meeting, worked on sending it to Allegheny County Economic Development, preparing the legal ads. Getting it to the newspapers and transmitting it to the planning commission. And planning commission transmittal, email. There was some timing, issue because they'd already sent out their agendas. They were looking at having a lot of things on July, so working with Marcy, we did have a supplement to the agenda, so they added it, was distributed. We got a flurry of emails, sort of in response with questions, and we had to dial it back a little bit, say, no, like we can't be answering questions or deliberating by email. Here it is. Part of the product, we haven't done these, recently. I don't know when the last saldo amendment came through, but you need to review it, provide comments and recommendations. And I guess in terms of the report I got from, there were a lot of questions about, why certain things were chosen and certain percentages and things like that. And, they did request to have a visitor from the land use committee attend the next meeting to discuss this further. Make their request, you can honor it or not, but they do have it back on their agenda for July meeting. Which would be, I don't know the timing of that. I think it is
July or June?
before
I thought it was-
June.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking the July public hearing.
July meeting will give you 18.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna put all questions
Questions,
in email and send it to us.
Yeah. Any questions,
yeah.
I'd be there in 2 weeks to, do
So
whatever,
we'll
there's some things.
Or
that just
respond
don't-
back in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the phrase, solicitation for
Anna,
yes.
other Anna.
Our other
Anna
Anna.
too.
Yes, I thought the, I guess the compromise was to collect any questions by a certain date. Send it over to us.
Yep,
Okay.
and
kinda
we'll
like
comment and get
reply back.
if we need to,
Yeah, I think the main thing was like not getting an advance copy of our notice. I felt that was the majority of the issue. It wasn't the issue with the ordinance per se. So,
Of course, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
and that's where the lessons learned. So that's fine. I get it.
Happy to hear questions, the email questions.
Yeah, let's see if she loves any.
Yeah, when you say advance notice, you mean 4 weeks, or just
Uh,
long enough?
they gotta like, it's either 2 days or 5 days before.
Okay, so everybody's done.
Yeah, we could have emailed it sooner, so that's the feedback.
Well, and I guess, for future, I mean,
Just in the future.
if there's a decision, I suppose at a work session to place it on the agenda for introduction. And the introduction is really the public announcement and starting the advertising requirements or so. We've always triggered it off that. And yes, we could have, because it was the Friday after, I mean, could have done it Thursday before, but it's kind of crazy. Usually do things on that Friday. I mean, because they had so much time, they could have put it just on the July meeting, but the understanding was they were anticipating having more to do in July, Tim saying, another 2 conditional use applications and things like that. So we kind of just said, well, push it on and know they have those 2 months to do it, but they just get it first. But it is the first time in a long time it's gone through that process, and like first time for some of those
Yeah.
planning commission members too.
Part of it.
Because the stormwater change did not go through.
Okay. All right. Have anything else? All right, thanks, Zach.
You have my report in front of you. Kids are out of school, so we're busy with camp and grad parties. That's all I have.
No money, Gary, good money.
Festival of Parks free.
We had a
In the-
45-minute meeting.
Oh, all right.
Appreciate on that.
Echo Camp actually got a shout out on KDK Morning Radio.
Oh, no.
It was more a Dave Gray shout out, but he mentioned that he was at the Liberty Hill Park and there's a magic place on a stream where you can find salamanders. Luckily, he didn't. say what
Salamander
stream
City
it
in
was.
a certain little creek that runs through one of our park systems. So we took a picture of a gecko or a salamander and sent it into the news. I don't know if they posted it. They said they would.
Named it Paul, right? He said
Named it Paul.
Yeah, we should post it on our website for a little bit. It sounds like it's.
I think
worth it.
KDK would
Larry
put
Richards
it on.
morning show.
So, but yeah, Dave always is a big advocate for us, and especially his eco camp is great for every kid that goes. So it's so much fun, something new every time we go out. My kid is volunteering with it this year. He has not caught any snakes yet. We will fill you in when he does find one, because I'm sure he will. Well, if they stay in the park and not in my house. Or-
Okay, but you can't guarantee.
No, not with them.
All right, thanks, Adam. Jim?
I think I have a report, I think, mentioned, speaking with, in the parks, I was gonna air tonight at Pittsburgh Sportsnet. Was the interviews last week with the new lights on field 4, and that was airing tonight, I think, before the Pirates game.
Yeah, they said all the big emails to everybody, but too.
That was another good exposure for Blueberry as well on that. At the beginning of the month, last month, I talked about the robotic mowers, autonomous mowers that were out in the park. It was in Blueberry for about 2 weeks. I had it mowing the football field, and 3 out of the 4 ball fields. It did well there. And
Yeah, did a really good job.
took it over to the golf course, and we played with it over there for another week
How
or
was it
so.
over there?
It did good. I mean, I think in the rough, the fair, it can mow the fairways. I just, I think it's better in the rough than it would be on our fairways. But there's definitely a good use for it, I think. Possibly moving forward just to help maintain. It's more of a maintainer than, so, they will, like, during the summer with the camps, the guys work 7 to 3 and the camps there from 8:30 to 2. When do you find time to mow? Everything's to mow overnight, and they'll mow in the rain and mow whatever you want them to. And it's, once they're set up, it's all run through the phone, so there's very little maintenance on that side of it. That's in the parks, and then when it comes to the golf, not necessarily the golf courses is, busy as usual. And, I mentioned some of the trees that have come down recently over there, plus the one we had to take down. Most of them, Rick, in the woods falling onto the course. It's some older oaks that are just, they look healthy, and found out they're hollow through the middle. The other thing I mentioned is the end of next month is our golf outing. We try, we still, even if people can't bring foursomes, we're still looking for some sponsors. Dawn is working hard. We don't have a main sponsor yet.
We do now.
Oh, you do now? I didn't see it today.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Just before you.
Okay, good.
He told us.
So that's good. But we're still part of the, for lunch sponsors, and I mean, any and all sponsorship helps. So talk to, try to get as many foursomes as we can, obviously.
Yeah.
We've been hovering around 80 people, but if we get closer to 100, everyone's happier. You don't really make as much money off the golf itself. It's more or less the amount of people and the Chinese auctions and the sponsorships is where the main money comes from. So the more we have there, the more that can be generated the scholarship. So if we can move,
29 Jim, is that one of those?
yes. Yeah, so we can help push for foursomes and sponsorships. That'd be a great help for Dawn.
I don't know if you saw the email I sent over this evening, Jim, but a member of the North Area Environmental Council was walking Orchard Park. Noted that we're letting some of the grass grow, we're not mowing it as often, and she thanked us. Yeah, complaints from neighbors.
I wondered if you would.
I told them I'm developed lot.
And we do mow it. I mean, we'll probably out this week mowing it down just to keep it maintained, but it's not mowing it every single week.
Right.
I've seen neighbors with their dog. The dogs love it because especially there was a beagle that was doing what beagles do, started swimming, looking through. Absolutely enjoyed it as well.
It's good for the environment and saves us money.
Save us money, the fuel, the manpower, the mow areas that aren't really useful. So it helps all the way around. Some of those hillsides are south facing, so they burn out in the summer anyways. And
That's all I have in my report.
Thank you. Just a couple updates, highlights from our report. Big one is Acorn Parks, and it was staff currently here last week to talk about going to bid. Permit should be issued here this month, so we received council's blessing to go to bid. Open up bids for construction prior to your July meeting. So hopefully we'll work contracts. Let's see some construction activity here late summer, so fingers crossed. We'll continue to proceed, but that's the schedule as we talk now. So no hiccup is fine.
I like those caveats.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully bids in July for council's consideration. Only other update then is we did have a pre-construction meeting with the developer for Deerfield Estates Phase 2A. He's finishing up some bonding, recording plan, developers agreement, tightening that stuff up. But looking to start shortly after that. The area is great. All they really have to do is put in storm sewers and pave the road. We anticipate that'll happen at some point this summer here. They wanted to start in June to see how paperwork comes together. We'll see some more activity. That don't have to answer questions. Councilman, you have the meeting. We also have a report. Good questions? All right, thanks. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. So, nothing new outside of the memo that we provided. Just a couple things to mention. One is the Demex has probably started mobilizing yesterday, I think it was. So we're working with that. We had our pre-construction meeting here, and then with the contractor as well with the conservation district. So that should be up and rolling here pretty soon. Another thing to mention is the Fish Run restoration permit is back up and running. So we're starting the clock on that one again.
Just a couple things from my report. I have the asking for the motion regarding a lease on our copier. It's our current lease is up in August. They said we'll sign one early. We get a discount per month, $20 a month cheaper. So it is CoStar pricing. I wanted to highlight too so we have had for years a issue with IP addresses at Clover Hill and the fire station constantly going out. Anytime there was a power outage, anytime it was rebooted, we resolved that. So we won't have those issues anymore. We got a static IP through a router in those, so we won't have that issue anymore. And lastly was ready to move forward on what we budgeted for with the Limbrook Park, the camera system, putting 2 ALPRs on Big Swickley, capture anything coming in and out of the borough on that end of the borough. Putting 4 HD cameras at the top of Limbrook that will capture all the fields up there as well. And the total for both of those is a little over 11,500, and which is under what we had budgeted for that. Those are the only things I wanted to highlight.
Will the cameras at the top of Lindbrook capture the pavilion too, Chief?
Yeah, they will, and we'll be able to, they're 365, 24/7. They'll have night, so we'll be able to capture that. And the system will be built that we can add any cameras if we need to. So if we find a dead spot or something like that, we need to resolve.
Have you gotten a lot of bear calls in the last 2 days?
Well, I have been away on vacation, hence my little tan that I'm doing. But I did see the article or on Next Door Neighbor that someone had posted. So we did have a couple calls about the deer, but
North Allegheny said down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was a panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Traveling through the area. Hopefully it keeps moving.
Cool. That's everything.
My written report, we do have the executive session discussion, on a zoning matter and property acquisition.
Sounds good. So, reach the staff.
Did we cover the planning commission request?
Yes.
Are we good on that? The protocol,
Yeah, just email.
let them email questions if they don't.
You want a date?
I thought we told them like a week. That's a good question. Would a week before their meeting be good, or?
That give you
You guys, let me know.
Yeah,
Brian,
Okay, yeah,
I'm-
no.
my meeting's in 2 weeks from now, at 6 p.m. I'd like to have this stuff in front of me before then.
yeah, no, if they have any questions, when do they need to tell us about it?
That's the drop thing.
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, they're meeting,
And their meeting's the day before.
yeah, they're meeting on Tuesday, the 18th.
Oh, meeting too.
He's talking about the tree. the tree
Yeah,
stuff.
this is like their, they need to collect questions if they have them.
Oh, okay.
And send it back.
All right.
So could we tell them like,
Give me 3 days to turn it around.
would the 13th be good?
Get it by the 13th.
Yeah, Thursday, 13th,
And then I'll consult with Max if I need to respond. So.
sounds good. You guys do that? Do that, Max?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So the email will come to Reed's and Reed's can forward it to everybody.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
them or?
Well, it'll come through us and then we'll get through to you.
okay,
Distribute accordingly. I would suggest we send it to, everybody on the land use committee and Max, maybe. And everybody in council.
okay. So does somebody want to still call in, or do you want me to email, do a reply all to the land use and say, just a reminder, have your questions back by end of Thursday, 13th? Okay, and direct it to Anna, would that be good? Her to collect, or I can collect them, I don't know. Or to Tim?
I think Tim.
Well, it'll go to Marcy. and she'll-
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, send it to Marcy, and Marcy will send it over, okay, perfect.
I might
We'll
be
make it
zero.
ready tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that over here, yeah.
I know.
All right, yes, totally forgot. All right, so.
David, just need Scott for one more item. We can do penance, everybody else.
First time.
Thanks, everyone.
This next item is a purely financial one.
Is it the 77?
Next 77 red. Thanks.
Lot of detail. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate
I don't know if everyone's familiar with the grant tax. It's the extra 1% sales tax in Allegheny County. It's distributed to a number of organizations, including municipalities. Caveat with municipalities is that if you get increased RAD revenue from one year to the next, 25% of that increase must be donated to a intergovernmental organization, which in our case would either be the COG, the library, or the ambulance authority. Now, from 2019 to 2020, we actually had a reduction in RAD tax. And then we had a changeover in finance director, and we kind of dropped the ball on this. So just to give you some numbers, we had about $180,000 in 2020 of RAD tax. Went up to 201,000 in 2021, up to 238,000 in 2022, and up to 275,000 in 2023. So for those 3 years, we currently have $23,819.51 that we should be donating to one of those organizations
Does it have
over
to be
that
just one?
3-year period.
Does it have to be just one?
No, you could
organization?
do it all 3. You could split it with 2. It's any way you want. It cannot replace a contribution you were going to make anyway. It's purely a donation, so it doesn't count toward the 75,000 we
Potentially, right.
the ambulance authority and the money we're getting at the library.
Yeah, do we have a deadline?
I think we're past it.
Yeah.
We're digging out now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think traditionally, I remember sometimes we split it, sometimes we just give it to the end.
In this case, it's just 3 years. You may want to split it between the library and the ambulance authority.
Yeah. COG.
I don't care about it. Let's just do ambulance authority and library divided by 2.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Laura?
What's wrong with the COG?
They don't need the money.
I don't think they need it.
I don't have strong feelings either way.
Yeah, no, I do. I think, you know, but.
So is the COG like funded or something?
The COG's funded by member municipalities.
Yeah.
They use every
So
year.
there's like
They can,
So we're already paying.
Yeah.
yeah, right, they're already
We're already
supporting.
paying all of it.
It's a
file
nonprofit.
going
they're
on all
supporting
weekend
it.
about spending money at tires, and I kind of was replying, like, please stop replying all. Like,
Oh.
it was just like, so, all right, I was just curious how they work.
Yeah, yeah, she's a full-time director.
Lynn,
and I think
yeah.
they have some part-time staff.
We
Okay,
have one part-time staff.
Handle,
okay, financially, they seem to be fine.
Yes, they are.
there was issues a few years ago, but I think they're all straight.
Okay, I think I like the idea, 50/50.
Yeah.
Split it through the library.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll draft a letter that goes with the check to each organization.
Yeah, that's
We've
good.
done
That
a
was
motion before,
Yeah.
passed, yeah, we've done a motion,
Okay.
Okay, so we'll
just adopt.
wait till we do the motion, to release, and then we'll go ahead and check.
That'll be caught up.
Thanks
Is
for
it
catching
something we can
the.
advertise on the website and say we just donated this much money to the library and to the AMH Authority? Can we put that on the website and say we donated that?
Sure.
We don't have to say it was compulsory.
You can say.
3 years overdue.
Right.
Nothing like that, just let everybody know.
Yeah, it is.
Actually feels good here.
Yeah.
I get cold easily.
I
I
turned on the AC, but I think once I take off. Yeah.
It's not hot, it's just. I'm stuck always cold and I am not yet ready.
Yeah.
There it is.
My sweater.
Just
been in closets all day.
Wow.
Yeah, and no wonder we're all like, that's a fall asleep.
Reed, are we good with Scott?
Yes.
Okay, all right, Scott.
Have a meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Good evening.
all right, see it.
See you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're good in that. Let's see, report to the council and mayor, just wanna go around, Brian,
I'm good tonight, yeah.
Laura.
I was telling you that earlier, McCandless keeps talking to me about trails, so I need to get in touch with you, Reach, about.
I told them we were ready to meet and it never happened.
All right, well, we can do
They're
that.
good for that.
Is that Jack who's been reaching out to you?
What,
And,
non-meeting part?
yeah,
Very well.
what's it, yes, but we can make that meeting happen.
Would we have it?
Each of them.
We told me they just, their reach just left again.
Brian was on. Yeah.
Okay.
He's going to Richland. He used to be a commissioner in Richland.
Oh,
Yes. So they're lookout for a new municipal. It'll be their fourth in the 5 years.
Yeah, it's been quite a few.
This is McCandless.
Yeah,
Wow.
quite a bit of turnover.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm hearing that sound too.
You hear that?
Air conditioning.
Struggle. Wonder if there's something wrong.
Maybe that's why it wasn't.
This is one of them.
It's just, it seems that was like something on the, it's a vibration like that. That was not an official question, as you can see.
That counts towards your age.
Strike that question.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Yeah, Mayor?
I'm good.
Julie?
I just want to let you guys know I won't be able to go to the next meeting. It's my grandparents' 50th anniversary, so we'll be in California.
Oh.
No, not South Carolina.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Did you want to go to California?
Yeah, actually, I've never been there, so
Okay.
maybe. Maybe after I said that. Yeah, and thank you guys for the opportunity, to interview. That's very good.
Have a good trip.
Thank you.
All right, Luke?
I'm good.
Rich? All right, okay, yeah, good, okay, good. Okay, cool, so we can head into executive session.